Diego, hitting the airwaves live in America's finest city. It's Annie and Elsten.
Oh, what time is it? Time to kick it!
A fresh local sports talk show about having a good time in the sunshine of San Diego.
Guess I've been working so hard, I forgot what it's like to be hardly working.
With your hosts, Annie Heilbrunn.
There's gold showers of
Just gold showers.
tickets raining down.
And Craig Elsten.
That was too vociferous. In my ding-dong.
And featuring Braden Surprenant. The good times start now. Here are your hosts, Annie and Elsten, on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Elsten today on a Friday, a beautiful Friday morning in America's finest city. Thanks again for making our day a part of yours, as we'll take you up to 2 o'clock today with a lot of talk about in the sports world in San Diego. Some national stuff, some local stuff. We're working on the stream. For some reason, my login won't work on the computer here, so that means it deactivates the camera. So on YouTube, we'll try to get that fixed during the break with all the passwords and everything we have to change at this company 24/7. Just, a real pain in the you-know-what sometimes, trying to log into some of these computers and whatnot. But I will be taking you up to 2 o'clock today, where Gwen and Chris will take over the Matt Scraby Show. And we'll talk a lot of college football today. We'll talk a lot of NFL football playoffs today. We're going to recap kind of the week for the San Diego Padres. I'm not going to get into the, obviously the legalities of what is going on with the ownership, but more importantly, some of the other things that have happened with arbitration and everything like that this week for the San Diego Padres and what that means going into next week. Of course, I know everybody wants a Sasaki update, and we've had calls about Sasaki. What are the Padres going to do? Are the Padres going to sign Sasaki or what? I don't know. You're not going to know. It's a different situation. It's not like you're trying to outbid somebody. It's more of a recruiting pitch than it is anything else. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And I mentioned it, and I posted on my social media. If you don't know who I am, Braden Surprenant, you can follow me on social media at @B_SURP, at BSURP. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter/X, whatever that is, whatever you want to call that. I still call it Twitter. I don't really want to call it X, but it is what it is. You can follow me on TikTok. I don't necessarily post too much on there, but you can still follow me on there nonetheless. As did kind of a preview of what to expect on the show today. We do have a couple of guests today as well. Brock Ungrich, head coach of the USD men's baseball team, will be joining us at 12:30, talking a lot of, obviously, last season. They're getting honored at the Salute to Champions dinner on Monday. That's where Annie is for the next couple of days. She is a big planner of that. It's a big reason why we were able to get Adrian Gonzalez and Jake Peavy on the show the last couple of days. And if you haven't checked out those interviews, Annie did a great job with both Adrian and Jake, going down memory lane of being San Diego Padres and their careers and everything like that. Both of those gentlemen will be honored on Monday, as well as a handful of college and high school teams and individual players. Should be a fun time on Monday night. So we'll talk about that with Brock, as well as some other things that happened with USD baseball this week, and get a preview for the season. It's right around the corner. They'll open up against TCU on February 14th in a 4-game series at Fowler Park here in San Diego. And we'll have baseball here before you know it in America's finest city. Coming up at 1 o'clock, off of what was a big win for UCSD last night. And it looked like it was pretty close. I mean, it was a 6-point game late in the second half, but UCSD was able to overcome some of that and be able to knock off Cal Poly, make them 0-43 in Big West play in a row. But they went through the relatively tough test of trying to deal with Cal Poly before you play a team like UC Irvine on Saturday. So head coach of the UCSD Tritons will be joining us at 1 o'clock talking about his men's basketball program. And what a great program it is, and what a great program it has become here at the Division I level, the first year that they are eligible to play in postseason play at the D1 level. So we'll talk about that with Coach Olin coming up at 1 o'clock. Got a lot to get to on the show today, of course. We got the NFL playoffs this weekend. And we got 2 games tomorrow, 3 games Sunday, and then a game on Monday. And the game on Monday has been moved to Arizona because of the fires in Los Angeles. And obviously our thoughts and prayers and support go to all the firefighters that are not only from San Diego that might be up there, but all around Southern California and the ones from out of state, helping CAL FIRE and everybody try to put out that disaster north of Los Angeles. And it's just, some of the scenes that we have seen, from the fires, and it's tough to watch. And I think it sparks a lot of memories from, some of us that have had to deal with fires down here, and always hoping that people stay safe and we can kind of negate as much of that as possible. But with those fires going on in Los Angeles, a lot of cancellations, changes, and now movement of NFL football playoff games as the Rams and Vikings will now play in Arizona. Joined by Frank Marchese today. He's on the ones and twos, running the board. Frank, what's going on? How's your Friday morning going?
Not good after last night, but other than that, it's been going okay.
Oh, what happened last night?
The Penn State game.
No, the Penn State. Are you a Penn State guy?
Yes, I am.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, then we could share the same sentiment last night. I went over to my buddy's house. He's a Penn State guy, him and his dad. His dad's from Pennsylvania, so they're the big Penn State fans. His sister ended up going to Penn State. So we went there for the Fiesta Bowl as well. So we had to try to and I was talking to Annie about this yesterday, trying to simulate everything that happened the first time, right? So we had Gaglione brothers last time. We had to do that again this time. Same guys had to pick it up. That was me. All the same, whatever. Tried to sit in the same spot. One of our buddies couldn't make it though. He had to go to Arizona for a wedding. So he's the natural built-in excuse that didn't get any heat last night, but he's starting to get some heat in the group chats this morning. But we'll talk about that game and break it fully down. But I thought Penn State dominated the first half of that game. And then Notre Dame, as James Franklin said at halftime, it's going to come down to this middle eight. Notre Dame dominated the middle eight, which for any of you that don't know, that's the final 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 minutes of the second half. That's where Notre Dame really made their stride. Penn State did fire back with a haymaker after Notre Dame took a 7-point lead, but that late pick by Aller was a tough one to swallow for a lot of Penn State fans. You mentioned off air about his post-game comments about he was trying to just throw it at the guy's feet. I don't necessarily know if I believe that or not. It's never a good idea to throw the ball across the middle late. And unfortunately for Drew Aller, he learned that the hard way. He's expected to come back next year for Penn State, and we'll see where they're at. But as of right now, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are in the national championship. They'll play the winner of Texas and Ohio State, who will play this afternoon at 4:30 to continue the college football playoff semifinals. But I have to say, I saw this meme last night, and I totally resonate with it, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. But it's the meme of the two guys on the bus, and the guy sitting on the window on the right side that sees all the beauty is like, oh, this is so great. And then the other guy, as they're going around a cliff, is just looking at the cliff and the mountains. He's all scared and concerned, and it's like the scared and concerned guy is when my team is in a really close, good, important game, and then the happy guy is when I don't have any team in this highly contested, exciting game with national championship implications on it. I totally resonated with that because I was like, that's me in 2022, and that's me in 2025. It's just a different viewing experience. But overall, I wanted to start the morning with some Padres news, obviously, and not necessarily, it's not like breaking news, but it's been a long week for Padres fans, I think. It's been a long offseason for Padres fans, and a lot of it, I think, is a lot of built-in overthinking when it comes to the San Diego Padres from a fan perspective. And I think we're starting to think a little bit too emotional when it comes to this ball club and what 2025 is going to look like because of kind of the last couple of months and how they've transpired, starting with, obviously, having a lead in the divisional series against the Dodgers, going 24 straight innings without scoring a run, which I know everybody's probably tired of hearing, losing to the arch rival, the Dodgers, them going on to win the World Series. And then, obviously, with some of the finances with the Padres and not having that luxury to spend a lot in the offseason like they've done in the past. And look, that was going to be the case regardless. Regardless of who was in charge of the team, who wants to be in charge of the team, all of that stuff. That's just what they have to deal with. And so you see that. You see the Padres not spending after losing. You see the Dodgers spending enormous amounts of money after winning. You start seeing, then you see the ownerships, in a lawsuit, which, again, that's nothing that really involves us as fans or people on the radio or the media. I mean, we could just report on the updates of that particular case, but that's going to be handled in the court of law, and that's going to determine a lot of things in the future. But that's not something to worry about because it's all going to be business as usual on Park Boulevard down there in downtown. You're still going to get everything that the off season's plan is still the same. AJ Preller still has the same budget, and the Padres are still going to be showing up for pitchers and catchers in February. And it's going to kind of calm down a little bit, I think, for a lot of us when we start to see those highlights the Padres put out of the gloves making a lot of noise in the bullpen and high-octane velocity coming out of the pitchers, and seeing the guys like Merrill and Tatis and Machado taking some hacks in the batting cage and out on the live field. It will kind of change the perspective. But you start thinking about, like, well, the Dodgers are spending money, the Padres aren't spending money. They seem like they're getting better. Everybody else seems like they're getting better. What are we going to do? They have this lawsuit, all this other stuff. What's the deal with Sasaki? There's no way he comes now. I mean, it's a lot of just overthinking, I think, on our part of putting into our minds of what potentially would be the catastrophic scenario, even though that's not even the case and it's not even something that's happened yet. Got the arbitration numbers back. I mean, that's something that the Padres are waiting on to try to see how much they are paying a lot of these players. They still have to make an agreement with Michael King. He has not agreed to a contract yet. Padres and Michael King's party are off by $1.5 million, which is something they're obviously going to handle. This doesn't mean that he's absolutely going to arbitration because they could still negotiate until his arbitration hearing date. But there's a little bit of work that needs to be done with that. Luis Arraez got $14 million. Dylan Cease got $13.75. Jason Adam $4.8. Morejon got $2. Camposano got $1. But overall, and we talked about this yesterday, when it comes to the Padres, I think you look at a lot of things that have not come together yet, and you immediately start thinking, this is the end of times for the Padres. But the reality is it's not. I mean, the core group of players that you have that got you through this last season are still going to be there next year. Are there some question marks? Yeah, there's question marks for everybody. But you're still going to have Fernando Tatis Jr. in the lineup, and you're still going to have Manny Machado in the lineup. You're still going to have Xander Bogaerts in the lineup, and I know a lot of Padres fans would love to see him play a lot better than he has, and I still am holding out hope that he can do that. You're still going to have Yu Darvish. Now, the Joe Musgrove thing kind of hurts, but as of right now, you still have Dylan Cease as part of the rotation. You still have Luis Arraez. They might have to make a couple of moves on the fringes to fill out this roster, but you go through who the Padres have of their core, of the money that they have spent. They have a core that's good enough to make the playoffs every year as long as this core is still relatively in their prime. And the next couple of years, they're going to be. Yes, I know it's not a complete roster. I understand that. I had people calling into my show on Sunday saying it's like, well, look, they don't have bench pieces. They need guys off the bench. They need X, Y, Z. You know what they didn't have last year on January 10th? Any of the bench pieces that were impact players for the Padres in the postseason. They didn't have David Peralta. They didn't have Donovan Solano. They didn't even have Luis Arraez. They didn't have Jurickson Profar. They didn't have Dylan Cease. I mean, those are all major impact players that the Padres didn't have January 10th, 2024. AJ Preller's got to be creative. He's going to have to be creative. He was going to have to be creative regardless of what news came down this week or not. And we're going to see his creativity. I thought he was really creative last year. But with the core group of players that the Padres have, they're going to be able to compete for a playoff spot. And again, you just got to start looking at other teams and seeing what everybody else has too. They all have major question marks as well. I mean, the Dodgers can load up with as many players as they want. They can only carry 26 on their roster, and they're already really good. So when more players sign with the Dodgers, as Craig has said multiple times, and I kind of have to agree with it, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if they're going to continue to add all the talent, that's less talent that the rest of the National League has that you have to deal with. You start talking about all the other teams in the National League. New York Mets got better. Philadelphia Phillies are still in contention. Atlanta Braves haven't really done anything. They got a solid core. They're getting some injured players back. But one of those teams is already going to be in the playoffs regardless because they're going to win the division. And so you got two teams in the East that you have to compete with. I don't think the Marlins and the Nationals are really going to be that big of a factor. And if you're a Padres fan, you're not really worried about them anyway. You go to the Central. I don't think the Central's very good to begin with. Best team coming out of the Central will be the team that makes, obviously, the postseason. It could either be the Brewers, maybe it's the Cubs on a bounce back. Cardinals seem like they're kind of in a lost of ways. They want to trade Arenado, so I don't really think they're too big of a threat. So it's going to come down to those two. I'm not worried about either the Brewers or the Cubs if I'm a Padres fan, and one of them is already guaranteed to make the playoffs. So now, again, you start looking at it. Dodgers will be in. One of Atlanta, New York, or Philadelphia will be in, and Milwaukee will be in. So now you're competing with the two of the East that don't win the division, and you're competing with the Diamondbacks and maybe the Giants. So that's 5 teams for 3 spots. And when you look at it from that perspective and you start comparing your rosters, and I know you got to focus on yourself and let's focus on us and all that other stuff that in cliche and coach speak, start looking at it. Start looking at the league. Start looking at divisions. It's not outlandish to say that this Padres team is a playoff team as of right now on paper compared to the teams that they have to go against. Not everybody's got a complete team right now on January 10th, 2025. And that was the same case last year. You can remodel the room as much as you want. You don't like the way it's coming together. You can't judge it until the final product is complete. And we know A.J. Preller works through the entire spring training and deals get done at the end of spring training for the Padres. It's happened multiple times with A.J. Preller. Got to figure out how much you're spending. Got to be able to figure out and try to work the pieces to completely put together this ball club. But that being said, I understand where a lot of the fear is, and I think it's a lot of fear of overthinking about this Padres team with everything that's going on. And I'm not saying like the things that are going around the Padres are all great things and everything's sunshine and rainbows, because it is not. It is not all sunshine and rainbows. But when you're just focused on this ball club and the team and the players that are going out on the field, they're going to still have a really, really talented roster that's going to be in the top echelon of Major League Baseball. And I think when you look outside of it and when people look outside of just San Diego County, where we have our own fears, right, of not wanting to go back to the Seidler ownership where it was just like your best player was a rotating door of what free agent you signed every year, they're not going back to that position. And this team is talented and is going to be talented for the next couple of years. And as long as some of these players are on the team. I mean, you got Jackson Merrill for 5 more years minimum. You got Fernando Tatis Jr. for a lot more years. You got Machado and all these guys. This is why you invested in this core. There's something to do with continuity and consistency, and you just want to be hanging around the rim as long as you can. I mean, there's a lot of teams like that. There's a lot of comparisons you can make in Major League Baseball, in NFL, and the NBA about players or coaches that have been there and have been close and close and close, and they finally break through. And I know a lot of Padres fans don't want to hear that, but they're in a position to do that. Want to hear from you guys today as well. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Braden Surprenant, we are rolling on a Friday afternoon. Love to hear from you Padres fans out there, all you college football fans, NFL fans. Charger fans want to weigh in? Got a game tomorrow. You guys coming out of the woodwork again? You're knocking off the dust off your gear in the closet and putting it back on for the game against the Texans. We'll talk about all of that in just a little bit. But I'm going to tell you the 3 things that happened in last night's game from a coach's perspective that cost Penn State a chance for a national title. We'll talk about that next on Andy and Elsten with Braden Surprenant, 97.3 The Fan. 10:25 on a Friday morning here in America's finest city. Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Elsten. Had some login stuff we had to take care of. Had to get a password from Paul Reindl to get on the StreamYard. But we're back. We're here. So thanks again for joining us today. Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Elsten. They'll be back on Monday. Craig will be back on Monday. Annie will be off Monday again. She is doing the Salute to Champions dinner. And she is a big planner of that. So she is getting ready here for the final couple of days before that event on Monday. Got a couple of more guests this week that are going to be honored. One of them being Brock Ungrich joining us today at 12:30 p.m. Pacific time as we get ready for that on Monday. Should be a fun time. I will be going to support, and it's always a good event. I've been to a couple so far in town. It's always a great event to be a part of, and I always appreciate the invite to said event. Notre Dame and Penn State last night. Notre Dame beat the Penn State Nittany Lions 27-24. Last night's game was overall, I think, a pretty entertaining game, and I talked about it with Italian Paul over here, Frank, about it at the beginning, is the difference between watching a good game and a playoff game when your team is in it and watching the game when your team is not in it. And I look at that team, and I look at myself on this thing, because I talked about the meme. It's the meme of the guys going around the corner of the cliff, and the guy that's looking at the cliff is all miserable, and the one that's looking out at the beautiful landscape is like, this is great. It's so much more difficult to watch these games when you got a dog in the fight. I mean, I was there to support Penn State for my buddy and his dad, and I kind of like our watch party that we had. But at the same time, my nerve level wasn't even close to what it was when I was watching TCU play Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl in 2022. I actually hosted people that day. I don't know why I would do that. Did a brisket, did some other things. We had a TV outside, TV inside. Over 30 people came that day. I was bouncing back and forth between TVs. I couldn't sit still. I probably didn't watch a lot of the game while people were over. I had to rewatch the game after the end when people left to get the full experience of that game, because of how insane you feel when it's not one of your team, when it is one of your teams, and then when it's not one of your teams. So you look at last night, and from a statement of just an outsider looking in, I thought the thing that was the biggest of this game was actually teased by James Franklin himself at halftime during the interview. Katie George asked him about what do you got to do in the second half, and how do you think your guys are playing right now. He immediately brings up Notre Dame getting a field goal in the final 4 minutes of the first half to make it a 7-point game going into halftime, and the kind of momentum that they built. And then he said it's going to come down to the middle eight. Well, the middle eight for Notre Dame was great. And for anybody that doesn't really know, the middle eight is very important to us coaches in football. And I forget who did the study, but the middle eight is a very important thing in all football games. And that's something that we try to work on, as coaches at Cathedral. I mean, our first 4 minutes in the second half historically has not been very good. It just hasn't been very good. And it's hard to try to make those minutes important, like how you come out of the second half. But the final 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half are very crucial to a football game. Notre Dame's point differential was plus 39 through 14 games for the final 4 minutes of the first half and the first 4 minutes of the second half. They might have been the best middle eight team in the country this year. That's why James Franklin brought it up. And now they're in the national title game because of it. They scored 17 points in under 60 seconds on both sides of halftime in the 23-10 win over Georgia. And then after a mostly dreadful first 28 minutes down in Miami, they managed the clock perfectly, the Irish did. They drove down for a field goal before halftime. That's great. Despite losing Riley Leonard in that drive, he came out of the game. The backup had to go in there and try to settle down and try to get a field goal out in a situation where they fumbled. He fumbled on that drive. And it looked like Penn State had it. I mean, Penn State recovers that football before halftime. Who knows at that point? They're able to get the ball back. They get the field goal off. And then roaring down the field for a touchdown to start the second half. They got the 10 points they needed to tie it up with Penn State, who had dominated the entire first half of the game and who had the ball for the majority of the first half. I mean, Penn State had long, methodical drives. They ate up clock. And Penn State, in those 8 minutes, didn't even touch the ball. Made a massive difference in a 3-point win. They dominated the middle eight. It's a very important, crucial time of the game. The other thing in football games, you got to have successful third downs. There were 28 third downs on Thursday night. Notre Dame went 11 for 17. Penn State went 3 for 11. Fighting Irish won 19 of 28 overall third downs. They won 68% of third downs. Penn State managed a couple of huge fourth down conversions, but even if you count those as Nittany Lion wins, Notre Dame was still 60%, over 60% successful on third and fourth down compared to Penn State. Among the Fighting Irish's conversions were 4 Riley Leonard rushes for 25 yards, 2 Mitchell Evans receptions for 37 yards, and 2 Jaden Greathouse receptions for 16 yards. Among Penn State's failed third down attempts were a particularly costly drop pass in the end zone by Nick Singleton, which was on a bad pass by Drew Aller. It was the one where he runs out in the flat. He's got a touchdown wide open. He throws it at his knee. Taking a huge sack by Rod Hurd II and a no-gain scramble by Aller. Penn State probably won a majority of all the other plays in the game, but Notre Dame won the most important ones as third down. Middle eight, most important time of a football game. Third downs, most important down of a football game. Notre Dame won both of those. And then the last thing that really put them over the top was the bad pass. I was talking with the group at the Penn State thing. They were blaming Tom Allen and the defense didn't make. The defense made the stops they needed in the second half. You had too many 3-and-outs by Penn State's offense in the second half, even though they didn't touch the ball. But when you do touch the ball, when the other team's playing keep away, you can't go 3-and-out. That goes back to the third downs, and then you get the ball back again. Penn State makes a great stop twice. They get the pick that led to a touchdown, and then they got the stop they needed at the end of the game to either force overtime or give them an opportunity to win. Defense did their job. And then Drew Aller, rolling out to his left, tried to throw it back right. He says in the post-game press conference, he tried to throw it at the feet, throws it to Christian Gray, who picks it off, which inevitably will set up a field goal. You never know with college kickers, but that did in Penn State. Middle eight, third downs, and a horrid pass. And it was a 3-point game in favor of Notre Dame, then they're going to the national championship. That's how razor thin these games are. It was a great football game last night. And Penn State fans are going to be sick for a long time. I already know. But Notre Dame in these playoff games has done such a great job of finishing first halves, starting second halves, doing well on third down, taking care of the little things, and making plays when they need to, and that's why they're in the national championship. And that's why Penn State, unfortunately, is getting ready for 2025. But a heck of a game last night. What do you got on it, Frank? I'll let the Penn State guy speak his mind here a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was definitely the best game of the playoffs so far. I mean, that was a close back and forth, and it was just a couple mistakes, as you said, either way. Aller had his worst performance of the year by far. What was he, 12 for 26, something like that? He
wasn't very good.
No, he was not good at all.
He made some bad decisions. He got bailed out on the pass interference where he tried to throw it to Allen
to Warren
in the corner in triple coverage.
It's like I've seen Eli Manning do that so many times, and it's like, wow, how did that get picked off? I don't know. Maybe it's because you got the three corners hanging off him. I don't know. That's a good guess. But I'm seeing in the chat here, no one's talking about Penn State's wide receivers. Penn State doesn't have wide receivers. Watched every single snap of every single Penn State game this year. They don't have wide receivers. Tyler Warren is their tight end. He's the best tight end in the nation.
He's one of the best football players in the nation.
Yeah, and the reason why is because he gets every single pass. Wide receivers last night were 0 for 4 for Penn State last night. 0 for 4. And again, that was a pass that he's trying to throw to his feet. I would have loved to have seen the wide receiver that he was throwing to make the same effort that Gray did to try to get the pick. I would have loved to have seen that. But in the end, Aller recognizes that that's a pass that he should have thrown away after he saw his first two options were covered. And he's right. He absolutely should have. I don't think this game falls on the defense. It's not a good look when I think it was the touchdown that made it 17-10 Notre Dame, where the guy bumped off of like 3 or 4 different tackles and then extended into the end zone. And a fantastic run, but it doesn't look good on the defense. But you're right, the defense did everything it was supposed to do last night, and the offense was great in the first half, played keep away, and then Notre Dame took Penn State's game and threw it right back at them. It gave you a sense of hope when you saw that final field goal go up. It looked like it was hooking right, and it was going to pang right off the upright. I'm like, oh my God, did he actually miss it?
An act of God came back and pushed it back.
Yeah, and then it hooks to the left, and it goes right through the middle. I was like, God. But the second Aller throws that interception, the game's over. Like, it was over.
That's the one thing he couldn't do is do that. And it just throw it away. Could have taken a knee, whatever. I know, hindsight's 20/20 on that, but at the same time, Penn State fans are gonna feel that for a while. It's a tough loss for sure.
And just to go to your point about James Franklin before, I don't think this is the end of the road for him.
No,
especially with the way Penn State treats their coaches. They don't fire coaches. Franklin's only the second coach since Paterno left, and that was because Bill O'Brien went to the NFL. But there has to come a point where they can beat everybody, not named Ohio State and Michigan. Like, if I'm giving you 4 years, if you don't go 6-2 against those two teams, then we're going to have a serious conversation. But it doesn't look good because they keep losing to the 2 games, the only 2 games that matter in their season. They lose every single year.
Here's James Franklin's other records that nobody ever talks about. 34-8 in the past 3 years, 22-5 in the Big Ten, 11 wins or more in 6 of his 11 seasons in Happy Valley. Honest question, who would have a better record than this at Penn State in all of college football?
Not many.
There's not a lot.
But again, none of that matters. You can beat Purdue all you want. You can beat Michigan State all you want. If you don't beat Michigan and Ohio State, those are your 2 games that you have to win. Just like Michigan beating Ohio State, you have to win that game. You're judged on that game.
Here's the other thing too, because we got to take a break. Because people are like, "Well, his top 10 record's terrible." Find me a coach that dominates top 10 games. Find me one. And you know who struggles in top 10 games? Everybody, because they're top 10 games. They're hard to win, and all these teams don't play those games all the time. So if you want to tell me about how miserable his top 10 record is, there's not a lot of coaches that have great top 10 records in college football.
No.
There isn't. I mean, even Nick Saban loses a lot of top 10 games, or he did. But he is arguably one of the best coaches ever. And if you are going to fire a guy like James Franklin and expect to hire the best coach ever, I got news for you. There's not enough of those guys out there.
Nope.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. When we come back, the college football playoff has been great. How do we connect it to San Diego? Can San Diego be a part of this? What does San Diego have to do to be a part of this? I'll tell you some of those things when we come back. I'm Braden Surprenant, filling in for Andy and Elsten right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 10:44 on a Friday morning. Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Elsten today. Frank Marchese running the board for me on 97.3 The Fan. Thanks again for all of you joining us today, making our day a part of yours. Talking a lot of college football here in the first hour of the show. We did mention the Padres at the beginning part of the show. Again, why I still think they're probably going to be a playoff team as constructed. But we talked about last night's playoff game, Penn State and Notre Dame. And for all of you streaming on YouTube, you can check us out. We are also on my Instagram page at @B_SURP. You can follow me on social media at @B_SURP on Instagram and on Twitter and X. If you want to join the show today, 833-288-0973. I don't know how long it's going to be on Instagram. I don't think I can stream for 4 hours. So if you are on Instagram, you can check it out at the YouTube page, 97 Through the Fan, or my YouTube page at B_SURP. College football playoff. Overall, it's been, the last couple of games have been better. Not every game has been great, but it is something that I don't think you can make drastic changes on after 1 year. And I think a lot of people want to see this drastic change of like conference champions not deserving a first round bye. But the thing is, in order to change anything with the college football playoff, you have to have an agreement from all 11 representatives, which are the representatives of the conferences, the 10 conferences, which I still think includes the Pac-2, and Notre Dame. And you need them to all agree to flip this thing. I don't know if Notre Dame necessarily wants a first-round bye. I think it's better for them to collect the money of hosting a playoff game in South Bend, Indiana, because they can make the money off that. They already don't have to play a conference championship game. It's not like they need like all this time off for their bowl game. And then for every round they win, they get to keep all the money because they don't have to split it with a conference. That's one of the votes. They actually were big components in setting up this playoff. Then you got the other conferences mixed in. Like the Big 12 is not going to agree to just forfeit one of their spots in a first-round bye. And neither is the ACC, and neither is probably any of the Group of 5 schools. So unless that happens, which I think is very rare, and the contract is a couple of years, so 2026 should be the same, it opens up the door for really anybody in the Group of 5 to be able to be a part of the college football playoff. This year was Boise State. And not only was it Boise State, it was going to be the winner of Boise State and UNLV, which was the Mountain West Championship game, which is the conference that the Aztecs are in as of right now. Now, I know they're going to the Pac. That might actually make it better for them. I don't know if they would get considered. They still need to add another team to that conference to make it an automatic qualifier, a distinguished and a recognizable conference for the college football playoff. But you look at it, and we've had this conversation for years about the Aztecs and trying to win over the market and everything like that, and it's never been done. And, you know, maybe some of the days when they had Marshall Faulk and everything like that back in the 90s, they had people at their games. But how do we relate this back to San Diego? Well, how do we get San Diego State to a point where they could compete for a playoff spot? The path is there. Boise State set the path. So what's the difference between Boise State and San Diego State? It's not like the Aztecs got to get to a point where they have to play like Georgia. They don't, and they'll never be in that category. But you can't tell me that San Diego State can't do what Boise State's doing. San Diego State's in a major city. San Diego's a major city in the United States. And I know it's a small market and everything like that, but they should have the resources to be able to get their team at a level where they can compete with Boise State. And in doing so, they would be in consideration to make the playoff. Here's the good news about conference realignment for San Diego State. And there's not a lot of good news out there about it. I mean, you could say what you want about San Diego State being in the new pack. And San Diego State fans think it's great. I think it's okay. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I don't necessarily know it's a big upgrade. The assumption is they're going to get more money with a TV contract with the pack, whatever, than they are in the Mountain West. But the Mountain West has enough teams now to be a conference. The Pac-12 still needs one. Pac, whatever you want to call it. The pack. Because Gonzaga doesn't count. They still need a team for football. Not a lot of great things when it comes to conference realignment, at least with the football team. It's better with basketball. I mean, basketball benefits from this a little bit. It's not a total waste. But the good news about football and conference realignment for the Aztecs is all the good teams have now joined conferences that have these automatic buy-ins, and they are still handing out 5 conference championship spots. And there's 4 power conferences, and there's 5 non-power conferences, and then there's a conference that has 2 teams in it. And that 2-team conference is supposedly supposed to be the best out of the group, and that's the conference San Diego State's going to get in. So from that perspective, if San Diego State can win their 8-team conference, which is not that big of a task, or at least make the conference championship game, they have a path now to a national championship, theoretically. What does that do for the city of San Diego? Does that make you more interested in San Diego State football? They have the path now. For so long, I mean, Aztec basketball, and they took a lot of years to build, but Aztec basketball, with their opportunities in the NCAA tournament, knowing if we make the tournament, we have a chance, it has built a fan base and a group around the basketball program here in San Diego. In fact, it's made the other basketball programs in town better. I mean, especially UCSD, where we're going to have Eric Olin on later on in the show. One of the big components of why people don't buy into Aztec football is the same reason why you don't get crazy crowds at the minor league teams. And the answer is relatively all the same. I mean, they cannot compete for a major championship. We'll say it like that. And I think that's a big motivator for a lot of people. I think the locals here in San Diego will support all their local teams. But as I have mentioned before, as a 4th-generation San Diegan, there's not a lot of us out there. In fact, a lot of people that live here are people that are not from here. And so how do you get those people engaged with your local sports teams? They're all going to have their own sports teams anyway. So why are they going to support the minor league teams in a city that's supposed to be a major league city? If you're an NHL fan, because you're from somewhere else, say you're from Pittsburgh or something like that, you move to San Diego and you're a Penguins fan, are you going to be like super into the goals? I mean, like hockey, you might go. It's like you're going to be like a goals fan, though. I mean, like a diehard goals fan. Or be in some of the minor league teams. And they do a great job of marketing, and it's great for the community, and I love all the organizations that we have in town. The more, the merrier. But to win these people over, you got to have something like the Padres are doing. The Padres have done a great job of getting the people that have moved here to just buy into the city, right? It's been a big city collaboration, and everybody's into it. Why? Because they can win a World Series. They can win a major championship. Major championships to me are a World Series, a Super Bowl, NBA Finals, Stanley Cup, national championship in football, national championship in basketball at the D1 level. I think those are the 6 major championships. Am I missing any? Any off the top of your head? Do you think that people would be rally behind in their local town that they live in that they're not from? I think those are relatively it. Maybe the MLS can get some steam, but until then, those are the championships you want to win. San Diego State basketball has a chance to do that. People in town, hey, look, I'm going to root for San Diego State. It's cool. It's a cool story. It's my town now. It's my hometown. Let's see what they do. Football, it's like they got no chance of competing for a national title, and they play a bunch of teams in the Mountain West that are not fun to watch. Why am I watching this? It's like a different level of football. But if they can be at that level of Boise State, it's not even asking them to be like Georgia and pump millions of dollars into their program and have the state-of-the-art facility. They don't even need that. They just need to do what Boise State does. They can recruit to Boise, Idaho. This is San Diego, California. We got a hotbed of talent just here in town. I think Sean Lewis is doing a good job already, just keeping the talent he had last year. He just announced the new offensive coordinator. They promoted a guy from within. Maybe that takes a little bit of pressure off Sean Lewis. But with the hotbed of talent, with the way we can handle it, with the way the transfer portal is of getting players that have played at the Power 5 level to bounce back to San Diego State, getting the guys that used to play here in town that it didn't work at the Power 5 level that can come back, San Diego State's got a path to make the college football playoff. I think that does great things for San Diego State in the future. I think it does great things for San Diego's sports community to be a part of this. What would it be like in town for San Diego State in a playoff game? Would you be interested? 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. For all the transplants out there, you got San Diego State playing, even if they don't even win. You're playing at the Horseshoe against Ohio State in a playoff game. You're telling me you're not tuned in? San Diego would be tuned in. When we come back, got some NFL playoffs that we want to talk about. Myth or fact? We'll play it next. Braden Surprenant in for Andy and Elsten. San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 2 of Annie and Elsten, Braden Surprenant filling in. Thanks again for joining us today. Talked a lot of college football in the first hour. We're going to dive into some NFL football. We get the playoffs this weekend. We'll talk more about the individual games coming up in just a little bit. But got some myths about every team in the National Football League, at least in the playoffs, who are still playing that we want to talk about and see whether or not it's a myth or if we indeed think it's a fact. Frank Marchese will be joining us on this. Fire up the NFL music, in the mood?
You know what? I think I could do that, actually.
Ah-ha-ha! Success.
See?
Love it. Everybody on the radio can listen. Nobody on any of the streaming has any idea
Well,
the music we have in the background. But we'll start with the NFC, and then we'll go to the AFC a little bit later when it comes to myth or fact. And there's a lot of good myths in here that I think we could disprove, and some that are in there like, hey, maybe they are, in fact, a myth. We'll start with the NFC, and we might as well start with a team that's off this week, the Detroit Lions.
The Lions have been very, very good this year, and a lot of it has been because of their quarterback, Jared Goff, who over the last couple of years has really had a career resurgence after being traded from the Rams. The myth is that quarterback Jared Goff is great only because of the great players around him.
I'm not gonna say that's a fact. I think it's plausible. It's not a myth. I don't think it's a myth. I think there's some to that. I think Jared Goff is one of those quarterbacks in the tiers where he is good enough to win you a Super Bowl, but he's not good enough to carry your team to the Super Bowl. So from that standpoint, is he only great because he has great players around him? No, I don't think. He had some bad teams in LA at the beginning, and he wasn't atrocious.
No.
Right? So he was still pretty solid. He was good enough for the Lions to trade for him. So from that tier, I think it's plausible, but I would not consider that a fact, and I would not consider it a myth. And he's got a lot of good weapons, but right now, he's got a lot of guys hurt as part of that Lions team. So for me, I think it's plausible, but I'm not necessarily. I don't think Jared Goff is great only because of the great players around him.
I would agree with that. I would probably also say plausible. I keep going back to that meeting that he had with Dan Campbell a couple of years ago where he thought he was getting benched and came out of it rejuvenated. He's been very, very good over these last couple of years. He's been a big factor as to why that Lions team has been so good. I would lean more towards fact, but I wouldn't myth, sorry. But I wouldn't say that, like you, that it is because of him that the Lions are as good as they are.
Lions got a good O-line.
Yes.
Good O-lines make quarterbacks good, regardless of how good they are. It's when you got time to throw, you are very, very good. When you don't have time to throw, you are very, very bad. That's what it comes down to. 2-seeded Philadelphia Eagles, second best team in the NFC. They won the NFC East. Got a lot of good play out of Saquon Barkley this year.
I can't stand the Eagles. I don't really have an opinion either way on Saquon Barkley. He's a Penn State guy. He's also a former Giants guy. So we're going to go through this one quick. Myth, running back Saquon Barkley has been the difference maker. Running back Saquon Barkley has been the difference maker between last season's Eagles and this season's Eagles.
I don't think that's a myth. I think that's a fact. I think he has been the big difference maker. I think the Eagles were starting to trend in a different direction after last season. I think the Jalen Hurts is. I think he's slightly better in terms of tier category than Jared Goff, but I think he might benefit a lot from the talent around him with the receivers he has and everything like that. Last year, it wasn't really going the way that they wanted it to go, even though they made the playoffs. They got knocked out in the first round. Offensive line was a little bit less this year than it was last year. Obviously, losing Jason Kelce as the starting center and a lot of different moving parts with that team. I think the big edge that the Eagles got this year was Saquon Barkley. So I don't think it's a myth. I think that's a fact. I think he has been the difference maker between last season's Eagles and this season's Eagles team because the run game for the Eagles has been running back by committee, a lot of Jalen Hurts. Now they got a running back that can really carry it through. And what wins in all postseason football, running the ball and stopping the run. And with you got Saquon Barkley, you can pound the rock and you can win playoff games.
Is he only a couple dozen yards off the all-time running record this year before they benched him? Is
That's
that right?
Well, with extra weeks.
Yeah, so yes, Saquon Barkley has been the difference maker. And it's funny, he leaves New York and all of a sudden he has a full, healthy season.
He's got a better line.
A better team.
Yeah, a lot better team. 3-seed Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not necessarily the third best team in the NFC, but they won the NFC South. Got a little dicey there in the third quarter against the Saints when the Falcons were beating the Panthers, and all of a sudden the Saints, who had no business winning a game, had a lead against Tampa, but the Bucs finished it off. They earned a spot to host the Commanders over the weekend, but they are the number 3 seed in the postseason. They are a division winner. That means they get to host. They'll have a game coming up. We'll break that more down, but what is the myth for Tampa Bay?
The myth for Tampa Bay is simply this. Now, teams like Detroit, who are hurt, will benefit from having a week off this week. Didn't help in college football so much with all of the top 4 teams going out after having such a long time off.
They had 24 days off.
Yes.
Which is a little bit more than what the NFL guys get.
I agree. The myth is that Tampa Bay is inflated by playing in a weak division. I read that wrong and set it up completely wrong. I am.
Are you all right?
This is a bad morning.
Are you okay?
Allegedly, I made it to work, so
Well,
I must be okay.
Unless you had an out-of-body experience. Have you ever drive somewhere and we're in deep thought the whole time and you
Yep.
go, I don't remember how I got here?
All the time.
All right, well, that could have been this
All the
morning, I
time.
guess. It's 11 a.m., Frank. Let's go. Wake up, buddy.
I don't usually wake up until about 10:30, but that's because I'm usually up until about 3 or 4 in the morning.
Okay, well, you had filled in for the morning show not too long ago.
Yeah,
You
no.
had 2 weeks off in between. So, all right, Tampa Bay is inflated
By playing in a weak division.
playing in a weak division.
I thought it was by playing this week. I'm stupid.
All right, I could buy that a little bit, but not too much. I think it's plausible. 4th year in a row, the Buccaneers have won the NFC South. In 2021, with Tom Brady at quarterback, they went 13-4. But the following year, Brady's last, they won it at 8-9, and then won it again last season at 9-8, and they win it this year at 10-7. They beat some good teams, so like you can't completely knock them. But at the same time, you get to play the Saints twice, you get to play the Falcons twice, you get to play the Panthers twice. They went 0-2 against the Falcons. So, but they played them in a 4-week span. They beat the Saints twice, and they hammered the Panthers twice. I mean, that's 4 wins off the 10 right there. And they had to win 6 other games. One of them was against the Raiders. One of them was against the Giants. They did beat the Chargers. So, take that for what it's worth. And they did beat the Commanders in week 1. And the Lions in week 2. So, they did beat some good teams. The problem is when they beat the Lions and the Commanders the first 2 weeks of the season, and then they beat the Chargers, that was the kind of their one to hang their hat on right now. So I find it plausible. I don't think that's a myth. I don't think it's a fact. I think there's something to that, but that doesn't mean they can't beat Washington on Sunday. I don't think it's. And how many times have we seen a division winner with a losing record win the first playoff game?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's some to that. Like, I wouldn't consider them the third best team in the NFC, but at the same time, making the play, you're still a good team if you make the playoffs. You're in the top 14 teams in the NFL. I think it's plausible.
I would agree with that as well. And whoever wins a weak division really benefited from playing in a weak division, if you really think about it. So it's
they blow teams out and get some guys some days off.
Exactly. That is certainly the case. And moving forward, we'll move forward to the Rams here in just a second. Jocelyn in the YouTube chat, get Frank some coffee. I don't need coffee. I need Hooked on Phonics. I need to learn how to read.
Hot chai tea, you know?
So the Rams are the number 4 team on this list, so we'll get to them right now. The myth is that the Matthew Stafford-Puka Nacua connection is the key for the Rams offense.
That's a fact. That's not a myth. I've watched enough Rams games this year because I had Cooper Kupp, and it was just Puka Nacua the entire time. Yes, they have Kyron Williams back there, but it's not. It's just. It seems like every play they're trying to get the ball to Nakua. I mean, look at his targets all year. They're probably double digits in every game by a lot. I mean, they're trying to get Nakua the ball. Once he came back, the Rams started playing a lot better than they did at the beginning of the season. They had this winning streak, this kind of finish to the year that they have been on to win the division, and not only hold off the Seahawks, but catch, jump, and then hold off the Seahawks and the rest of the NFC West. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Puka Nacua came back. I think their offense is really relying on that with him and Matt Stafford. Rams ranked 15th in the league with 212 yards passing per game and 26th in the league with 16.8 offensive points per game from weeks 1 through 7. After Nacua returned from his knee injury, they ranked 11th with 235 passing yards per game and 15th with 23 offensive points per game. Nice little increase to where they were at. I think Nacua is the big reason for that, and I think the Matthew Stafford-Puka Nacua connection is the key to the Rams' offense.
No, when you find someone that you really like and you really trust and you know that you can get them the ball whenever they want it and they'll make the catch that you need, yeah, certainly. That's going to be a big boost.
We
and
got the Toy Story meme where Andy is Matt Stafford and
yes.
Woody is Cooper Kupp. I don't want to play with you no more.
Speaking of Cooper Kupp, I believe Cooper Kupp is a Minnesota Viking, right?
Cooper Kupp is on the Rams. Cooper Kupp.
Okay. I'm thinking of somebody else. Then
we got to
clearly.
refresh this segment.
No, we got to refresh
in
me.
the
what's
break,
happen.
Frank's going to take a 5-minute nap. See if he feels better.
No, it won't.
Minnesota
happen.
Vikings are very comparable to the Rams. Kevin O'Connell, La Costa Canyon alum, San Diego State alum, was on the staff with McVay when they won the Super Bowl. There's your connection. That's what you're thinking. I think that's what you're saying. That's what you're trying to say.
I'll accept that. Thank you. I'll accept that bailout. The myth
Pass
about
interference
the Vikings.
on the Tyler Warren.
The myth on the Vikings is that the Vikings are the same mirage that they were in 2022. Sounds harsh, but when you think about their current situation, especially with Sam Darnold as your starter.
They're winning with
now.
Sam Darnold. They won with Kirk Cousins. They obviously with Kevin O'Connell, you could have almost anybody play quarterback there and be successful. They got good receivers with Addison and Justin Jefferson. Do a decent job running the football. This is basically saying like they're not as good as 14-3 is basically what it's trying to tell. Like they're okay. They've kind of like survived for this long. I mean, Detroit kicked their ass in the final game of the year, but they beat Green Bay late in the year, which is a good win. And I think a lot of these wins that the Vikings got that you didn't think they were going to get, it shows that they're a good football team. But you look at their stretch that they had. I mean, yeah, going to Seattle and winning was good. And beating the Packers the second to last week of the season was good. But before that, it's like the Bears have been abysmal. They beat the Falcons, who aren't good. The Cardinals are a circus. They went to Chicago and beat the Bears. Again, they beat the Bears twice. They beat the Titans, who are miserable. The Jags are miserable. I mean, the AFC South wasn't very good. And they swept the AFC South. So we got the Jets mixed in there, too. The Giants were on their schedule.
They did what they were supposed to do against weak teams.
They did. They won. I mean, the thing is, it's not who you play; it's when you play them. Sometimes.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. It's not the Vikings' fault. It's just not college football. Like college football, you have to do that because you don't play everybody, and there's not a system to get. It's the 32 teams and everything like that. So, I'm selling that. I don't think the Vikings are the same mirage they were in 2022. I think that's a myth.
No, I would agree with you there as well. We'll do these next two quick because we got to go to break and I'm running out of music. The Washington Commanders. The myth on the Commanders is that they are in trouble if they have to play an elite running team. So say the Eagles, maybe.
I buy that. That's a fact. Everybody's in trouble if they play an elite running team because what wins in the playoffs? Running the football and stopping the run. Mm-hmm. Washington had the third worst rush defense in the National Football League by average yards allowed. Teams rushed for 137.5 yards per game against the Commanders. The only teams worse in that regard were New Orleans and Carolina, who each finished the season 5-12. And the Saints and Panthers allowed more yards per carry than the gaudy 4.8 that the opposing runners averaged against Washington. So yes, if the Commanders play anybody that can even run the football, they are going to be in some serious trouble.
It's with a lot of teams as well, because you focus so much on the pass now that running backs, it's kind of an afterthought in some cases almost, and it's kind of been that way with Washington this year. All right, last one, the Green Bay Packers, last one for the NFC. The Packers cannot get to the Super Bowl because they cannot beat the top teams in the NFC.
Went 11-6, finished in third place in their division, which is the tough division.
Yes.
Packers' first 5 losses prior to Week 18's irrelevant loss to the Bears. Lost to the Lions twice, number 1 seed. Lost to the Vikings twice, who, even though they got the 5 seed, are the second best team in the league. Eagles, third best team in the league, also a loss. Those were the Packers' only games against teams with at least 11 wins, all losses. Weren't blowouts. They were still relatively close. The NFL, you don't get a lot of blowouts, but you are what you are. And if you can't win those games, you're not a team that usually you're not better than those teams. So both of their losses to the Vikings were by 2 points. Even though the games were close, I would buy that. I think that's a fact. They can't make it to the Super Bowl because the path in front of them, they've already proven that they cannot beat all those teams. And in order to do so, you're going to have to beat a couple of them. And they hadn't done it all year. So I'm going to buy that. And plus, they're a little banged up now going into the postseason. And
if by the grace of God you do make the Super Bowl, you're going to beat one of the top teams in the AFC? You can't beat the top team in the NFC? I don't think so.
And the AFC's better.
Exactly.
You're going to play KC. You're going to play
Buffalo.
Well, I mean, yeah. So doesn't say win the Super Bowl. Just get to the Super Bowl. I think that's a fact. They can't get to the Super Bowl.
They've used up all of their luck just to get there. Forget about actually playing and winning it.
That is the NFC preview. We're going to get to the AFC myth or fact of the AFC playoff teams coming up in just a little bit, 11:35. But we got a college football playoff game tonight. Ohio State, Texas. Now's the time before you go to the bar tonight to watch the game, or you go to your buddy's house or a watch party. If you're gonna go to an Ohio State house or a Texas house, have some knowledge about some of the inner matchups of the game tonight before you go there. Be the smartest guy in the room. Be like my friends that watch the All-22 camp. You know what? I did the job for you. I'll give you all the answers to the test when we come back and who's going to win on Annie and Elsten with Braden Surprenant, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 11:23 on a Friday. Thanks for making our Friday a part of yours. Tuned in to Annie and Elsten. I'm Braden Surprenant, filling in for Annie and Craig today on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Talking a lot of Padres baseball in the first hour with some college football. Moved on to some NFL. We'll get back to the NFL in just a little bit, but we do have a college football playoff game tonight. Texas and Ohio State. I tease going into break. I mean, if you're going to a bar to watch the game, you're going to a watch party, whether it be a Texas household or an Ohio State household, or you're just meeting with friends to watch the ball club and watch the Cotton Bowl Classic. Got to be informed of what's going on and the game within the game. So let's get you the answers for what to watch for in tonight's game. Texas and Ohio State coming up tonight, 4:30 p.m. Pacific time on ESPN. The 13-2 Texas Longhorns is the 5 seed playing host, not really host, but really, I don't know. It's in Jerry's world. It's going to be a lot of orange. Ohio State Buckeyes, who are 13-2 in the 8 seed. This is going to be a great game. And here's the thing. Texas and Ohio State have only played each other 3 times before this. Could you believe that? Did you know the winner of that game went on to go to the national championship that year in which they have played, which will continue again tonight, as the winner of this will obviously go to the national championship. 2005, Ohio State led Texas, 4th-ranked Ohio State at the time, 2nd-ranked Texas, by 6 late in the game, 24-yard touchdown pass from Vince Young to Limas Swede, and a safety in the closing seconds gave the Longhorns a 25-22 win. They went on to beat USC in the national championship that season. Later on, the next year, 2006, down in Austin, Troy Smith of Ohio State threw touchdown passes to Anthony Gonzalez and Ted Ginn Jr., and after tying the first 29 minutes 7-7, the number 1 ranked Buckeyes won the last 31 minutes over Texas by a 24-7 margin on the way to a BCS national championship game loss to Florida in 2006. Then in 2008, the third and final meeting came in the Fiesta Bowl to end the 2008 season after watching a 17-6 lead turn into a 21-17 deficit in the fourth quarter. Colt McCoy hit Quan Cosby for a 26-yard touchdown with 16 seconds left to secure a 24-20 win of the Fiesta Bowl over Ohio State, setting up the table for an unbeaten run and another BCS championship game bid in 2009 for the Texas Longhorns. A couple of things happen when these two teams play. Following the time that these two teams play, you go to the national championship, and there's a rematch built in almost immediately. 05-06, but this is the first game of the season next year. Texas and Ohio State. So be a long offseason for whoever loses this game, but they're focused on that team for the remainder of the offseason, just like this game. So Ohio State has looked the best by far in the college football playoff. Their line play has been great. I mean, Jeremiah Smith has been unbelievable. Guy's a freshman. He's 6'4". He's thick. He's faster than hell. And he's almost uncoverable. I mean, he torched Oregon in the Rose Bowl the entire game, except for one play, and then the Oregon DB was like, "Oh, box, you're in a box." Is he in a box, dude? Guy ran rampant on your defense the entire contest, except for the one bad throw that Howard made. Each semifinalist has played 2 college football playoff games so far. Ohio State has faced the toughest pair of opponents with Tennessee and Oregon, but the Buckeyes have averaged the most yards per play, 8 yards a play, allowed the fewest, and they have produced the highest success rate and allowed the lowest. Defensive line has gone from great to virtually unbeatable, and an offensive tweak is paying massive dividends for Ohio State. I was talking about this with On the Red Greg before the show started. Here's the big thing that makes it difficult to stop Ohio State's offense when you have a receiving core that they have. And they have one of the best receiving cores in the country. They got some of the best receivers in the college football playoff. Jeremiah Smith is the leader in average receiving yards per game out of all of the receivers left in the college football playoff. That was including tight ends for Penn State like Tyler Warren. Jeremiah Smith's number 1. Emeka Egbuka is number 2. And Carnell Tate is number 7 out of the top 10. They got a great receiving core. Texas does have, and we're going to get to it, a pretty good secondary. We'll talk about that matchup. But the one that's interesting here, Chip Kelly's going a lot of 12 personnel. And for anybody that doesn't know what 12 personnel is, it's one running back and two tight ends. They've been very efficient with it on first down, which has led up to a lot of second shorts that they have continued success with 12 personnel. I've said this multiple times already this show. What wins in the postseason in football? What always wins in football? Running the ball, stopping the run. That's what wins in football. And when Chip Kelly's going with 12 personnel with two tight end sets, if you run ace, that's one thing, but any type of tight end sets that you have out there, you're creating extra gaps that you have to worry about in terms of stopping the run. You have to stop the run if you want to win football games in the postseason. Marcus Freeman said that at halftime of last night's game. We have to run the ball better. We have to stop the run. They did that in the middle eight. They won the game. Texas has to worry about stopping the running attack of Ohio State. And we haven't even talked about Jeremiah Smith yet. When you add two tight ends, you add extra gaps that you have to account for, which means you can't have coverages in which you are double teaming or bracketing or putting two guys on Smith without suffering something in your front seven to cover all the gaps for the rushing attack in this 12 personnel. It sets up perfectly for Ohio State. They got a player that's almost non-coverable as a wideout mixed with a good rushing attack. If you want to try to stop the run, you're going to have to isolate Jeremiah Smith with one defensive back, which leads to the second part of this equation. So how does Texas stop 12 personnel? That's going to be something to look for. And on top of that, with the success that with the success that Ohio State does with 12 personnel, they got to be able to match up with the passing attack in the back. Here's how that lays up. Texas does have the best DB in the country. They do have the Jim Thorpe Award winner in Johnny Barrett. Deep set of pass rushers that ranks 14th in sacks per dropback. Anthony Hill Jr. and David Gabina, one of the best linebacker duos in the country. They're second in both yards allowed per play and points allowed per drive, and they've started games well in the college football playoff, allowing 10 points in Clemson's first 8 possessions and 3 in Arizona State's first 7. But they faded a bit in both of those games, and they'll need a constant brilliance to match Ohio State's level. I think Chip Kelly's calling the best offenses right now. In his 2 games that he had against Tennessee and against Oregon, I mean, it's been a master class from Chip Kelly. So Texas is going to have to try to slow down the run with the 12 personnel, but also worry about Jeremiah Smith on the outside, which sets up the ultimate battle. It's going to come down to the receiving core of Ohio State, which is ultimately one of the best in the country, against Texas's secondary. If you look at Ohio State's passing game versus the Texas pass defense, you got 2 highly powered units going against each other. Ohio State's passing attack, in yards per dropback, they're 3rd in the country. In quarterback rating, they're 4th in the country. In passing success rate, they're 2nd in the country. In interception rate, they're 45th in the country. And sacks per dropback, they're 12th. That's one of the best offenses in passing games in college football, going against a Texas defense that ranks 2nd in yards per dropback, 2nd in QBR, 5th in passing success rate, 3rd in interception rate, and 14th in sacks per dropback. They have been a bit vulnerable on deep shots, something to look for, something that Chip Kelly can create, allowing 40.4% completion rate on passes 20-plus yards downfield. A lot of that has to do with the deep passes. It's either going to be a quick 50-50 ball on a fade, or you're giving the quarterback too much time and your secondary has to cover for too long. And when you have the front 7 that Texas has, they haven't had to put their secondary in those positions to cover for a long time. If you have to cover Jeremiah Smith for a long time, you're in for a hell of a day, because he's going to get open. So how Texas's defense handles that 12 personnel and the receiving core is going to be a major factor in this game. The last thing that you got to look for in this contest is, can Sark scheme up some big plays to kind of match what Chip Kelly's doing on Oregon's offense? They're not going to be doing against each other, but at the same time, it's almost like one of those, There's quarterback battles where you're battling another player that's going against your team, but you're not battling him in general. Same thing with like a pitcher's duel. You're talking about it with two offensive minds that are very good. If you look at Texas's offense versus Ohio State's defense, Texas's offense 19th in points per drive, 29th in yards per play, success rate 29th, 41st in yards per successful play, 25th in yards per dropback, 60th in yards per rush. It's a decent offense, not a great offense. Scheme's going to have to play a big factor in this one to help Quinn Ewers out, or Arch Manning, never know. And Quinn's been okay in the playoffs. He's really been okay since being in Texas. In terms of the defense they're going against for Ohio State, one of the best. First in points per drive, first in yards per play, first in success rate, 7th in yards per successful play, first in yards per dropback, 4th in yards per rush. Sark's going to have to come up with some big plays for Texas. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be difficult for the Texas Longhorns to beat Ohio State. You could talk about travel all you want. I have seen Ohio State play at Jerry's World. Now, granted, TCU's fan base is not as big as Ohio State. Ohio State's got the biggest fan base in the country. They're going to travel, even though the game is in Texas. And it is a snowy, icy DFW area right now in the great state of Texas. I think it's probably going to be 50-50 in the crowd. I don't think that's going to be a major factor. But the way Ohio State is playing on offense and on defense, they are playing like the best team in the country. I haven't seen anybody play like they have played in the playoffs this year. It's going to be a long... I think they should be able to handle Texas. I was not very impressed with Texas against Clemson, and Arizona State took them to overtime and probably should have beat them in overtime. Especially with the phantom no targeting call. So when you look at this game tonight, it's afternoon, late afternoon, early evening, 4:30. I don't know. Is the sun up at 4:30 right now? Barely. Ohio State's favored by 6.5. I like the Buckeyes to cover that against Texas. Total 52.5. The way these defenses play, I could see that being an under situation, but the Jeremiah Smith effect, Ohio State's got a lot of animals that they got a lot of players and aspects that are tough to deal with from a defensive coach's standpoint, even with 10 days to prepare. I got Texas. I got Ohio State minus 6.5. What do you got, Frank?
It's going to be a tight game. It's going to be another tight game, and especially with how Ohio State has played over these last couple of games, they've looked like they have really hit their stride. And to me, it's going to be a very close game. I think it's going to be a one-score game. I'm not quite sure if it's going to be that field goal game that we saw last night. Sorry. I have a feeling it's going to be Ohio State as well. I'm thinking it's going to be Ohio State, and that's not a Big Ten bias. That is, I think it's going to be close. It's going to be a one-score game. It's going to be Ohio State. I got Ohio State in this game too. I think the playoff games are different. They're might be a little bit closer than that, but it's going to be they're a tough animal to deal with for the Texas Longhorns. So should be a good game. Looking forward to it tonight. Playoff football the next couple of days. We got a playoff game tonight. We got 2 NFL playoff games on Saturday. We got 3 on Sunday and 1 on Monday. Fact or myth? We'll take a look at the AFC when we come back. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant, filling in for Annie and Elsten today on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
It's so loud on this thing. It's all busted. 11:43 on a Friday. We got some NFL playoffs coming up this weekend. But since I made Frank Marchese read, I guess I should probably read some things here. Baseball coverage under 97 to the Fan is presented by T-Mobile. Head to T-Mobile.com and get a great deal on an iPhone 16 Pro. We'll have some more baseball coverage later on as Brock Ungrich will join us at 12:30. Got the Sports Fix coming up next on the show. What's going on in the sports world. But first, it's time for some more NFL music. Get you excited for the AFC side of the playoffs.
Getting me excited to read again as well.
That's right.
I thought I was done reading after college, but anyway, all right.
Then you got into radio and broadcasting. There's a lot of reading and selling in this industry, my guy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. The Kansas City Chiefs, first in the AFC, at least on this list. The myth about the Kansas City Chiefs is that this is the worst Chiefs offense since Patrick Mahomes has become their starting quarterback.
I think that's a fact. I know they've only lost one game, but just watching them play, this is like the most underwhelming Chiefs team I've seen in the last couple of years.
There was a video montage I saw a little while ago that shows how many games that they've won this year on one either an official
possession,
either on official call or a fumble or a pick or just some freak thing happening. They've won so many games like that this year.
If you go through their schedule, the lucky Chiefs beat the Ravens by 7, 1 possession. Beat the Bengals by 1 point. Beat the Falcons by 1 possession. Beat the Chargers by 1 possession. Beat the Saints by 2 possessions. There you go. It's the New Orleans Saints.
Good on you.
Beat the Niners by 2 possessions. Came in last. Beat the Raiders by 1 possession. Buccaneers, 1 possession. Broncos, 1 possession. Lost to the Bills. Panthers, 1 possession. Raiders, 1 possession. Chargers, 1 possession. Beat the Browns by 2. Nice. 2 possessions. Hammered the Texans. The last couple of weeks have been a lot better. And then they got smoked by the Broncos, but they weren't even there. They didn't even show up.
Yeah.
So I saw it was two, and you can't do this, but at the same time, just for perspective, if you flipped all the 1 possession games opposite,
they'd be like a 500 team.
If that.
Right around there.
Because they won all these 1 possession games.
Yeah.
So they would be they'd have 4 wins. But the Bengals would have the number 1 seed. I mean, it's the razor thin in the National Football League. They're not their dominant self, but you have to give them credit for winning games. They're still winning the games. They get a lot of help. They do get a lot of help. I think it's fair to say they do get a lot of help.
Absolutely do.
But they rank a pedestrian 15th in the league in points per game. They also rank 16th in yards per game. Those numbers are a far cry from their high-flying Tyreek Hill days, and a big reason the Chiefs seem vulnerable despite their 15-2 record and top seed in the AFC. A team with that record should be outscoring opponents by more than 6 points per game. I would agree with that. I think this is a fact. I think this is the worst Chiefs offense since Patrick Mahomes became their starting quarterback.
It's the worst Chiefs team overall, I think, that we've seen since Mahomes became the quarterback.
I agree. They're but the thing, you start paying guys, that means you got to cut money on other spots. Yep. It's not as loaded of a team. So the only reason why people would say it's a myth, they were actually worse last season than this season. So they're slightly better. But
optics win
it's not a very
every
good
time. All right, so speaking of the team that they lost to, that would be Bills. Quarterback Josh Allen
circles the wagons.
Quarterback Josh Allen doesn't have any elite playmakers around him on offense. That is the myth.
I could buy that. They don't have any any elite weapons.
No.
Their rushing attack is better than it's been in the past with James Cook. Is James Cook an elite running back? I think he's a really good running back. I don't know if he's an elite running back. I know he finished the season tied with Derrick Henry and Jahmyr Gibbs for the league lead with 16 rushing touchdowns, which is good because it takes away from Allen. And the reason why Allen lost in the playoffs and has lost in the playoffs so many times is he hasn't had a running game. He has been the running game for the Bills. I've said it once. I've said it a million times. I've said it a million times on this show. What wins in the postseason, Frank?
Running and stopping the run.
That's 100%. And for a long time, the Bills couldn't run the football except for Josh Allen. You can't have your quarterback be the rushing attack for your offense. He doesn't have any elite playmakers. Stephon Diggs, you could say, was an elite playmaker. He got traded. They lost Gabe Davis. I don't know if he's an elite playmaker, but he's a downfield guy. He is a bomb catcher. Khalil Shakir's okay. Keon Coleman's okay. The receiving core is okay. They got some decent tight ends that relatively look they're like the same guy. I would agree with that. I think it's a fact. I don't think Josh Allen has any elite playmakers around him on offense. He is the elite playmaker on offense.
You know what is elite about the Buffalo Bills, though? Did you see the stadium renderings that they came out with yesterday?
Oh, their new stadium that they're building?
That place is going to look really, really nice.
With the roof that covers like some of the fans, but not all the fans?
Yep.
It's going to be great.
It looks beautiful. All right, next up is the Baltimore Ravens. The myth around the Ravens. The Ravens are not built to come from behind.
This has kind of been their reputation for a long time now.
Yes.
Including last year. Ravens kind of play bully ball and run the ball, but again, they were the same thing with. They're like the Bills. They're like the Bills. Where like Lamar Jackson was the guy. He was the rushing attack. Because a lot of the running backs kept getting hurt. I mean, it was like beginning of the season, every running back that played for Baltimore would get hurt. Now they have Derrick Henry. So, but again, it relies a lot on the run. From 2018 through 2023, the Ravens went 3-15 in games in which they trailed by multiple scores at any time. That 167 winning percentage was better than 17 other NFL teams over that span, but it's a far cry from their overall winning percentage of 685, which is better than everyone but the Chiefs and Bills over that span, and that, of course, has led to the reputation. I'm saying it's plausible. I'm not saying it is a myth. I'm not saying it is a fact, but when you don't have Zay Flowers and Lamar has not been good in the postseason, and you're going to have to rely heavily on Derrick Henry and Lamar's legs, if they fall behind, you can't play that game in the postseason. You just can't do it. I mean, eventually you got to start moving the ball. I mean, when you're a team that can run the ball and ground and pound, that's great when you're tied or you got the lead. As soon as you get into a hole of more than 2 possessions, it starts to flip on you and you got problems. So I'm going to say it's plausible. I'm going to say I think they're a little bit built differently than they have in years past, where they could come from behind, but I can buy that they aren't built to come from behind.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. We've only got about 3 minutes to get through the last teams here. The Houston Texans, the injuries to receiver Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell, what a name, sank the Texans' offense this season.
That's not a myth. That's a fact. They have not
Yes.
been the same without them. They've been awful. And we're going to get to the bold predictions in the National Football League for this weekend coming up in a couple of segments. And one of them is, are the Texans going to score a touchdown? Because they might not be able to on offense. C.J. Stroud's at a sophomore slump. He doesn't have a lot of things around him. With those guys going down, a lot of pressure now on Nico Collins and Joe Mixon, and just they're just depleted they're limping into the playoffs.
Absolutely.
That's a fact.
This is the team that they're going to be playing against, the LA Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's coaching has elevated quarterback Justin Herbert to another level.
I think it's plausible. I think him being a former quarterback has helped Justin Herbert. I think his philosophy of trying to run the ball is alleviated some pressure off of Justin Herbert, and I think the offensive line has been a lot better for the Chargers and has made it a lot easier for Justin Herbert. I'll say that's plausible.
He's been there all year because it's kind of hard to commit recruiting violations when you don't have to recruit.
That's right. His shtick gets old after 4 years, though, Frank, so we'll see what they do.
The Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have an elite defense. That is the myth.
I think it's plausible.
Allowed 20.4 points a game this season.
It's very good. They're limping into the playoffs. I mean, they've been awful the last couple of weeks. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it's hard to score in Pittsburgh just because it's hard to move the ball in that weather all the time. They play in a division that is a lot of running, a lot of ground and pounds, right? Bengals' opening drive last week was like a hot knife through butter against that impressive elite defense. If you're an elite defense, you're slowing everybody down. So I think it's plausible. I think they have shown signs of being an elite defense, but I don't know if I want to put them in that category yet.
Seen a lot of pictures around Twitter today, how many places are covered in snow, so that could definitely help Pittsburgh.
That's right.
Denver, the myth about the Broncos, they upgraded their quarterback in a big way this season.
I'd say so. I don't think Russell Wilson's that great of a quarterback anymore. I think he cost the Steelers a handful of games this year. I think he's going to cost the Steelers potentially this weekend against the Baltimore Ravens. He did it last week against the Bengals, and he is a major distraction for a lot of organizations. He didn't see eye to eye with Sean Payton. Neither did Sean Payton, who inherited Russell Wilson when he became the head coach. And Sean Payton went out and got a guy that fits his system more. So from Bo Nix being the young player that fits the Sean Payton system better, and with Russell Wilson being gone, I would buy that. I think that's a fact that the Broncos upgraded at quarterback in a big way, with the negatives being gone with Russ and the positives of Bo Nix being in. And he played pretty well all season long for the Denver Broncos.
You also have a better opportunity at molding a younger guy than you do an established veteran like a Russell Wilson.
He was doing calisthenics in the middle of an airplane.
As you do.
Flying to Europe.
As you do.
You do that?
Who doesn't do that? I mean, come on.
Got to get your workout in.
Exactly.
Get your stretching. Practice all your, go through the visualization of calling a huddle. Just be on a knee, all right, calling out plays.
If it's not at 3 a.m. at 35,000 feet, what are you doing it for? Like, really, why would you even do it?
And film it, too.
Exactly.
Eyewash, as Annie Halbern would say. She is the queen of eyewash. When we come back, we'll get you updated on everything going on in the sports world with our sports fix. We'll get you our picks for this weekend's NFL action. And coming up at 12:35, Brock Ungrich, the USD baseball head coach, will join the show. We'll also be met with Eric Olin in the 1 o'clock hour. Halfway done here on a Friday. More to come. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.
The meatloaf! We want it now!
See your mom cut the crusts off your bread?
Ma, the meatloaf!
Well, you probably missed a lot in the sports world. Don't worry, we've got you covered from high school to professional and everything in between on the 12 o'clock Sports Fix on Annie and Elsten. Brought to you by Team Kia of El Cajon. You should be driving a Kia from Team Kia of El Cajon.
Braden Surprenant in for Annie and Elsten today. San Diego's number one sports station, 97.3 The Fan. You can follow me on social media at B_SURP. I'm on Twitter and on Instagram. Talk a lot of football today with the playoffs coming up this weekend and college football playoffs happening today as well. Penn State and Notre Dame was last night. Notre Dame won the Orange Bowl 27-24 and will go on to play in the national championship game. They'll take on the winner of Ohio State and Texas. That is at the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic in Arlington, where it is snowy and icy. Do the right thing, Jerry. Open the roof. Open the windows, Jerry. Football weather in Texas. I don't know who that would benefit, actually. It'd probably benefit Ohio State more than anything else.
Yes, definitely.
Good thing for them they get to play indoors.
They were talking about their weather advantage that they were going to have over Tennessee. Meanwhile, Tennessee has almost the exact same weather as Ohio State.
It was
so that
5
worked out
degrees
well
or
for them.
6 degrees cooler in Columbus than Knoxville.
Oh, God. Those 5 degrees are a killer, though.
Oh, yeah. People act like in the South like it doesn't get cold. It does get cold. It gets frigid in the South all the time.
I saw Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama, southern Alabama, covered in snow this morning.
Oh, my sister's in the snow. She had a snow day.
There you go.
She teaches in Nashville. They had
That's still a thing?
Yeah.
Snow days are still a
That's
thing with
thing.
Zoom. Wow.
Yeah, snow day. You guys are off. Don't worry about it. So, anyway, we digress. It is time for the Sports Fix, and to get us back on baseball is Frank Marchese with the latest.
Yes, and of course, because I am me and because I am who I am, we are going to start with some Mets news because that's the only news that's come out today. Apparently, after hearing and letting known that Scott Boras was using Prince Fielder's disaster of a contract as Pete Alonso's benchmark, somebody in the Alonso camp wisened up. Alonso's camp has reportedly put together a short-term deal on the table for the Mets, and only the Mets. I believe it's a 3-year deal from what I saw. I don't have money a part of this deal, but it's a 3-year deal with multiple opt-outs from what I have seen with that. So Pete Alonso is making an offer to the Mets and to the Mets only. And I get the feeling that if he doesn't sign this, if the Mets don't sign this one, they're not getting Pete Alonso back. And there's been a lot of rumors about them going out and trading Vladdy Jr., so that could be a thing.
All right. Got anything else?
As far as baseball news, national baseball news, the latest on the reliever market also shows that Tanner Scott went to visit the Mets, and there was also rumors that I believe it was Tim Hill was at Petco Park yesterday.
He was not. People
okay.
mistake him with Tom Cosgrove.
Okay, so Tom
for
Cosgrove.
a funky lefty delivery.
So Tom Cosgrove was working out at Petco Park yesterday.
Tom Cosgrove was working out yesterday at Petco Park as they get ready for the rodeo this weekend. That starts tonight. Frank will have more on that later.
Will I?
Yeah.
Okay.
The events in San Diego this week. We got a lot. A lot of events in San Diego.
I will
this
have
weekend.
more on the rodeo.
That's right. NFL news for you as we move along on the Sports Fix. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson underwent surgery Thursday after tearing his right Achilles tendon again, the team announced. Watson's recovery time and return to play status is uncertain. He will likely miss significant time during the 2025 season, the Browns said in a statement. Sources tell ESPN's Adam Schefter that Watson's recovery is expected to take at least 7 months. During his season-ending exit interview earlier this week, Watson complained of discomfort after rolling his ankle while in Miami. A subsequent MRI revealed a re-rupture to his Achilles tendon, the team said. Watson met Thursday with Dr. Robert Anderson before undergoing the surgery. Watson, who's 29, initially tore his Achilles on October 20th, marking the second straight year his season ended because of injury. He also missed the final 8 games of 2023 after undergoing surgery to his throwing shoulder. Browns general manager Andrew Berry said earlier this week during his end-of-season news conference that Watson's setback would not significantly impact the team's offseason plans at the quarterback position. The only other quarterback under contract for 2025 is Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a 2023 fifth-round pick who struggled in his 2 starts this season. Jameis Winston, who started 7 games after Watson's injury before being benched, is an unrestricted free agent. Bailey Zappi, who started the season finale, is a restricted free agent. Browns have some quarterback issues. Moving on, Lamar Jackson beat out Josh Allen at quarterback, and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson were unanimous choices for the Associated Press 2024 NFL All-Pro team. Saquon Barkley received 48 of 50 first-place votes. Patrick Surtain II got 49 from a nationwide panel of media members who regularly cover the league. Wow, that's crazy. That's respect right there. That's love, Jefferson said of his unanimous selection and second overall. Jackson received 31st place votes to Allen's 18, making the team for the second straight year and third overall. Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers are the only quarterbacks with more All-Pro nominations in the Super Bowl era than Lamar. If you want to take a look at the full list, again, of All-Pro players, you could check it out on ESPN.com. Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts has made it through the concussion protocol, Coach Nick Sirianni said Friday, clearing him to play against the Packers on Sunday. Hurts returned to practice in a limited capacity Wednesday and moved to a full participant Thursday. Sirianni has been pleased with what he has seen out of Hurts this week, echoing the sentiments of left tackle Jordan Mailata, who said the quarterback looked sharp in practice. Jalen Hurts is back for the Eagles. Last one for you. The NFL has now officially moved Monday's wild card playoff game between the Vikings and the Rams to Arizona. It announced Thursday night, saying the decision was made in the interest of public safety as wildfires continue to ravage Southern California. The game was originally scheduled to take place at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California at 8 p.m. Monday. It now will be played at Glendale State Farm Stadium, home of the Arizona Cardinals, at the same time Monday. The league had said earlier this week that Arizona would be the contingency plan if Monday's game had to be moved. In a statement Thursday, it said it came to the decision to go ahead with that move after consultation with public officials, the participating clubs, and the NFL Players Association. So Monday night's game, Vikings and Rams, will be played in Arizona. That is it for NFL news. I do have some college football news for you. Georgia quarterback transfer now. Carson Beck has committed to Miami, with Beck posting the news on Instagram. Beck is expected to visit Miami this weekend, and his commitment comes with 24 hours of his surprise decision to enter the portal Thursday after declaring for the draft on December 28th. Beck will instead join Miami for his final season of eligibility. Beck, a 2-year starter for the Bulldogs, had a 24-3 career record with Georgia, will succeed Heisman Trophy finalist Cam Ward and attempt to lead Miami into the college football playoff after the Hurricanes came up short in 2024. Last bit of news for you. Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord, who played here in the Holiday Bowl, nation's leading passer this past season, told ESPN on Friday that he will declare for the NFL draft and has decided to no longer pursue an NCAA eligibility waiver for another season. Kyle McCord will be entering the draft coming up in the next couple of months, if you will. Already getting to draft time. That's it for NFL and college news. Frank Marchese's got some local news for you.
I do. We have a lot of local stuff going on tonight. For instance, the San Diego Seals are going to be in Vancouver taking on the Vancouver Warriors tonight. That will be at 7 p.m. on ESPN+. AHL, the San Diego Gulls are playing a doubleheader. One game tonight and one game tomorrow, both at the Sports Arena. They will both be against the Tucson Roadrunners. The Gulls are coming off of a 5-1 win against the Iowa Wild on Wednesday. College basketball, San Diego State is going to be in New Mexico to take on the Lobos. That game will be at 10 a.m. tomorrow on CBS. So again, 10 a.m. tomorrow, San Diego State in New Mexico on CBS. Two more games coming up tomorrow as well. UC San Diego will play UC Irvine. That game will be on ESPNU and on ESPN Plus. That's a 7 p.m. tip-off, as well as St. Mary's at USD to take on the Toreros. That game will be at 7 o'clock. That game will also be available on ESPN Plus.
I'll be on the call.
Yes, you will be on the call. The San Diego Rodeo, as you had mentioned, is at Petco Park. 3-day passes are still available. There are a couple that are still left, but be prepared to pony up for these tickets as prices range between $229 and $308. That's for the 3-day pass. That is not for just one night. Also on StubHub, you can also get your tickets for Monster Jam, which will be at Snapdragon Stadium both tomorrow and Sunday night, a week before motocross is set to come out here. I'm seeing tickets right now, $50 in the upper tank at Snapdragon Stadium. Not all that bad.
Yeah.
You had there's no obstructed views up there. It would be a very nice night out. I haven't been to Monster Jam in quite some time. I believe it was our first year here, probably 2006 at Qualcomm was probably the last time I went to Monster Jam out here.
I don't think I can't remember. I definitely have not seen it since they moved out of Qualcomm. But
it's been a while. I'm more interested, honestly, because Supercross starts this weekend, starts tomorrow night with A1. I'm very interested in possibly seeing how much tickets are for San Diego, which is next week. Round number 2 of the season as Supercross gets set to go.
Is that everything?
Yes, that is.
That'll do it for the Sports Fix.
That'll do it.
On the Sports Fix. All right. When we come back, we do have we got the full preview of the National Football. We went through the myths, but let's talk about the bold predictions. Let's talk about some of the games. We got a full slate Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with some bold predictions and who we like in the game for all your betting needs. NFL weekend playoff preview next on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:16 on a Friday afternoon, beautiful day in America's finest city. I know we're getting some smoke down from L.A. and thoughts and prayers are out there with all the firefighters dealing with the fires up in Los Angeles and throughout Southern California, as it has been some national news on that front. But hopefully everybody down here can enjoy their Friday afternoons, and we thank you for making our day a part of yours. Alongside Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to Annie and Elsten, filling in for both Annie and Craig. Craig will be back on Monday. Annie will be out. She is putting on the Salute to Champions dinner. 77th Salute to Champions is San Diego's premier sports award gala. Year's most memorable performances are celebrated, and the region's greatest sports figures receive the community's highest sports honor, induction into the Breitbart Hall of Fame. This year, the inductee class is Jake Peavy and Adrian Gonzalez, former Padres, and one of the best local basketball players and WNBA champion, Chard Houston. Pro and amateur stars of the year, as well as individuals who have made significant contributions to San Diego sports landscape, will all be recognized as well. Coming up on Monday, 77th Salute to Champions dinner. So that will be a fun event on Monday that Annie is helping plan, so that's why she is out today and again on Monday. She was with Jake Peavy and Adrian Gonzalez earlier in the week. If you haven't checked out those interviews yet, they are posted online, wherever you get your podcasts, and also on YouTube. You can follow us on social media at @B_SURP, at @BSURP. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. And you can also find us wherever you find your podcasts. I have my own show on Sundays from 9 to 11 on the airwaves here. Some of those days are going to be off in the next couple of weeks just because of NFL football. But the Braden Surprenant Show you can find wherever you get your podcasts. Again, we are on YouTube right now. We are also streaming live on Facebook and on Twitch. You can find us on 97 Through the Fan SD. You can also find my YouTube page at @B_SURP. And we were streaming on Instagram Live earlier. I might throw that back up in just a little bit for the interview with Brock Ungrich, who will join us in our next segment. But first, we got some NFL playoff games to discuss and break down, as we got 2 games tomorrow, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday with our NFL playoff preview. And Frank, we got some fun games to talk about, starting with the Chargers and the Texans.
So yeah. I got the music. We're ready to go.
Last time of the music.
Reading again.
This is too much of the music in one show. It's the last part of it.
Reading again. All right, so it's going to be the Chargers versus the Houston Texans. This game is going to be in Houston, 1:30 p.m. on CBS. Chargers right now currently a road favorite, -3.
I could see that.
For Los Angeles. The what would you call it? I guess the question of the game will be, will the Texans fail to score a touchdown?
That is our bold prediction, buy or sell. The Texans will fail to score a touchdown. I can buy that for a lot of different reasons. Since Week 9, their first game after losing wide receiver Stephon Diggs to a torn ACL, the Texans ranked 27th in offensive EPA per play. They then lost receiver Tank Dell late in the season to a knee injury too. Now against the number 1 scoring defense, it's going to be tough for the Houston Texans. If they do score a touchdown, it might be on defense and special teams. I can see the Chargers keeping the Texans off or out of the end zone, at least on their offensive side of things. So I will buy that. Here's your stat to know for the game on Saturday. With a win Saturday, the Chargers' Jim Harbaugh would become the second head coach in NFL history to win a playoff game in his first season with 2 different teams. Pete Carroll did it with the 2010 Seahawks and the 1997 New England Patriots.
Chasing history.
I got the Chargers in this one.
I have the Chargers.
They covered
as well.
the 3. Are you buying the fail to score a touchdown?
No.
Selling it.
Yeah, no. It's
They're going to score a touchdown.
As you said before, the NFL is just, it's too tight. They're going to get through, whether it be on purpose or by accident. They are going to score a touchdown at some point in the game.
You want any referee nuggets?
Sure, go for it.
Referee Land Clark's regular season crew threw the 5th fewest flags in the National Football League and was particularly stingy when it came to defensive holding. 5 of them, fewest in the league. Chargers will be happy to hear that after getting flagged more times for defensive holding than all but one team in the National Football League.
And they're not reffing the Chiefs game, huh?
No. They got the
Son of a gun.
Chargers-Texans game.
Son of a gun.
11
Look
of
at that.
Texans' 17 games this season went under the total, which is tied for the Giants for the highest under rate in the National Football League. Unders were 7-1 in Houston home contests in 2024. There's your betting nugget.
Oh, anything for the Giants is bound to be under. All right, the second game of the Saturday games is going to be the number 6 seeded Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the number 3 seeded Baltimore Ravens. Divisional matchup. 5 p.m. on Amazon Prime because, why put an NFL playoff game on national television?
Yeah.
The
Download Prime.
The buyers.
We need you to order some packages, Frank.
I have Amazon Prime. It's not going to affect me. But seriously, you're going to hide an NFL playoff game behind a paywall.
They put whoever wants to pay for it. If 97.3 The Fan wanted to be the exclusive broadcast of an NFL game and pay that kind of money, I'm sure the NFL would say yes.
I think CBS, Fox, NBC, and ESPN are already paying for it. But whatever.
They are.
The buy or sell bold prediction, Ravens tight end Mark Andrews will catch 6 or more passes, matching or surpassing a season high.
He's had a pretty good year this year, too.
He's had a very good year this year.
Tight ends have been no Zay Flowers. Going to have to mix it up with somebody else. The downside of that is it's got to do with Lamar's got to come out and play. He's got to he's got to get the monkey off his back with the playoff Lamar. So I'm going to buy it. I'm going to be positive for Lamar Jackson, the Ravens. I think the Ravens are a lot better than the Steelers. I think the Steelers are limping into the postseason right now. Ravens are favored by 9.5. I take the Steelers plus 9.5. I think the Ravens win the game. Your stat to know: Steelers running back Najee Harris has averaged 4 yards per rush this season, which is 35th out of 44 qualified players. His minus 0.01 yards per rush gained over expectation ranks 31st in the NFL, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. Frank, how do you win playoff football games?
Passing and pass defense?
No.
Oh, it's the other thing. It's running and run defense.
Running and
got
rush
it.
defense.
Got it.
That's all you need to know about the Steelers in that particular case. In terms of your officiating on Saturday, Alex Kemp is the referee, and his crew, his regular season crew, threw 59 flags for offensive holding, tied for the most in the NFL. That's an especially notable number for the Ravens, who were flagged for the third most offensive holding penalties in the regular season. Steelers received 18 such penalties, tied for 18th in the NFL. 6 of the past 7 Steelers road games have gone over the total. 5 of the Ravens' past 6 home games have gone over the total. Take the under in the Texans-Chargers game. Take the over in the Steelers-Ravens game, they say.
I can't.
Over-under's 43.5.
Okay.
Those games are usually tight and low scoring.
Yes, they are. But 9.5 point favor for Baltimore. I get scared off of those big.
In the NFL, you have to.
I can't do that.
In the NFL, the spreads.
Yeah,
if you're
over
more
a
than one possession,
I can't do that.
It's hard to do in the National Football League.
Baltimore's going to win, but I would take Pittsburgh on the
Sunday
on the line.
slate.
Sunday. Got a couple of number 7s versus a couple of number 2s. The first one we'll go is the AFC. That'll be the Denver Broncos at the number 2 Buffalo Bills. This is an 8-point spread in favor of the Bills. This is a 10 a.m. game on CBS. Buy or sell. Allen will convert at least 5 first downs or score a touchdown with his legs.
So one or the other. I think he has a rushing touchdown. He always does. He is the rushing attack for the Bills in the postseason, or at least he's been. Now, he does have James Cook now, so a little bit better in the running back game for Buffalo. But he always, in the playoff time, he calls his own number a lot, sometimes not to his benefit with some of the decisions he makes. But I'm going to buy that. I think Allen will get a rushing touchdown, and if not, then he'll go get 5 first downs with his legs.
Sometimes you are the only person you can trust in a big situation.
Yeah, you know what? If you want something done right, you do it yourself.
Exactly right.
Stat to know: Bills have turned over the ball only 8 times in the regular season, which is tied with the 2019 Saints for the fewest since turnovers were first tracked in 1933. You were saying?
I would go Buffalo here. I'm taking the Bills. And I would also go with the touchdown. He's going to get the touchdown. I think 5 first downs is a little much, but I think the touchdown is very doable for him.
One possession spread with the 8 points. Taking it? I'll take the Bills -8.
In this case, I would take the Bills as well.
Over the past 10 seasons, rookie quarterbacks are 0-5 outright and 1-4 against the spread in road playoff games.
Okay.
Definitely take it -8 for the Bills then.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Bill Vinovich will be the official for this game. Regular season crews are historically one of the stingiest in the NFL, and 2024 no exception. His crew averaged a league-low 12.9 flags per game. That's good news for both teams. Bills, 18th. Broncos, 21st, ranked in the upper half of the NFL in total flags this season.
There you go.
Not a lot of flags being thrown in that game. Is it snowing in Buffalo? Because it's snowing everywhere else.
It is snow on the ground in Buffalo. The next game, the middle game on the Sunday spread is another 7 versus 2. It is the Green Bay Packers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Only 4.5 points the Eagles are favored by in this one. 1:30 start on Fox. Buy or sell, Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter will bat a pass, and it will be intercepted.
Well, that sure is bold now, isn't it?
That is about as bold as it gets.
I'm going to sell that. The odds of that happening are going to be very, very slim. But if Jalen Carter makes an impact on a batted pass, I could potentially buy said bold prediction. Stats to know, Packers scored 30-plus points in 5 of their 7 final games, including 5 straight contests in weeks 12 through 16. That's the second longest streak in franchise history after a 7-game streak in 1963. The other stat to know, of course, is what the record is against the teams that have double-digit wins. And that is over, with 11 wins or more. They lost to the Lions twice, lost to the Vikings twice, lost to the Eagles once. Packers can't make the Super Bowl because they can't beat the top echelon teams in the NFC. That is what the prediction was, the myth. I think that's going to happen. Betting nugget for you. Eagles are 9-3 against the spread in their past 12 games. They have covered in 3 straight home games. Officiating nugget for you. Brad Allen is the referee for Sunday afternoon. His regular season crew threw the 3rd fewest flags per game, but Allen called 10 penalties for roughing the passer, the 2nd most in the league. That's good news for the protection of Hurts and Love, who were the beneficiaries of a combined 3 penalties for roughing the passer in the regular season. Not a lot. I will take the Eagles in this game. I will take them to cover 4.5.
I will do the same thing as well, and at least for all those stats are nice. As my mom would say, all of those stats are nice.
It's nice.
There's only one thing you need to concern yourself with, and what jerseys are they wearing? Same thing with the Steelers, same thing with the Commanders, because you never wear yellow pants to work. If you wear yellow pants to work, you're not going to have a good time.
I almost spit out my coffee.
I'm going with
wear
the
yellow
Eagles.
pants to work.
I am going with the
This
Eagles
has been
on
Frank's
this one.
betting nuggets.
No, that's my mom's. That's not me.
Frank's mom's betting nugget. You don't wear yellow pants to work.
Hey, she missed all but 2 playoff games based off of nonsense like that one year, including the Super Bowl she got right based off of
Save that for your
nonsense
March
like
Madness tournament brackets.
that. Exactly.
They got yellow shorts on.
Sorry, you're out.
Out.
You are done. Speaking of the Commanders, it is the Commanders versus the Buccaneers. They have the late night game. That'll be a 5 p.m. start on NBC. Bucs are favored by 3 points against Washington. Buy or sell, Daniels will rush for 70 or more yards.
That is a lot.
It is a lot for a quarterback, especially. That is a lot.
Unless the Bucs jump out to a lead and Daniels is dropping back to pass and has to rip off some runs, I think that's going to be hard to do. I'm going to sell that. I think the Commanders win. I'll take the Commanders +3. I'll take them outright. I think they beat the Buccaneers. Stat to know for this game. Since the wild card was introduced in 1978, this matchup will mark the 4th instance of 2 teams meeting in the wild card round after averaging 28+ points per game in the regular season. Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks. Betting nugget, 4 straight Buccaneers games have gone over the total. Overs are 12-5 in Buccaneers games this season, including 11-3 in the past 14. There's your betting nugget for you.
I will go with Washington as well. I'm actually going to buy Daniels
70 yards rushing?
70 yards, yes. And if you're the Bucs, don't throw a Hail Mary. On Monday, the Minnesota Vikings will take on the LA Rams. As you had mentioned, this game has been moved to Arizona. That'll be a 5 p.m. start on ESPN. The Vikings are favored by 2.5. I wonder if that's going to change at all.
At a neutral,
it's a neutral site game.
Give me a second to check. Neutral site game in the Rams rival.
There you go.
Arizona Cardinals.
The buy or sell is that Coach Sean McVay will attempt a field goal when he clearly should not, or at least according to the ESPN analytics model, when he clearly should not.
Our bold predictions are written by NFL analysts on ESPN. That one was written by Walder. What's his first name? I can't find it on here.
Mr.
Seth Walder. Seth Walder obviously has a problem with Sean McVay kicking field goals. I'm going to sell that. Sean McVay will attempt a field goal when he clearly should not, at least according to ESPN analytics. I'm going to say no on that one. Line has moved to Vikings by 3.
Okay, so it's moved to half.
It's moved to half a point with the game moving to Arizona. Betting nugget for you. Vikings are 6-2 against the spread in their past 8 games. They are 5-1 against the spread in their past 6 games as favorites. Officiating news, the Rams were flagged for the fewest times this season in any playoff team, and their average of 6.2 per game ranked 5th in the NFL, so they'll welcome referee John Hussey's crew, which averaged the NFL's second fewest flags per game, especially because the Vikings drew the most flags in the league. There's your penalty stats that you need to know. Sam Darnold seeking to become the 6th starting quarterback since 1966 to win his first career postseason start while playing for his 4th team or later. Of the previous 5, 3 went on to reach the Super Bowl that season.
I'm noticing a trend here with these officiating crews.
Not a lot of flags.
Yeah, not a lot of flags. A lot of just boys have at it kind of deal.
I will take the Vikings at a neutral site. Are they going to paint the Rams stuff all over the field? They have to.
You would
right?
have to assume, no?
Didn't they do that for the Chargers when they played in Arizona?
I think they
did.
The
Fires? I think they did.
So yeah, I would do the same. I would go with Minnesota. I would take those points. And you know what? Just because I like chaos, if I were Sean McVay, I would have read that. Gotten down inside the 10 on the first drive of the game. First down and goal, kick a field goal. Just because I like chaos.
You're petty.
And yeah, of course I am.
Petty.
Of course I am.
You care about the outside, and you're feeding into the rat poison of Seth Walter with his.
Sometimes that's all.
You gotta send a message. Sometimes
that's all you have to look forward to.
Your inner Italian.
Just
showing.
Go for it.
You gotta send a message. Okay, that's it for the NFL. That's your preview for the weekend. 2 games tomorrow, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday night. He's Frank Marchese. I'm Braden Surprenant. San Diego Toreros baseball team getting honored on Monday as part of the Salute to Champions dinner. Their head baseball coach, Brock Ungrich, will join us to talk about last year's season and get a preview for a very difficult schedule for the Toreros coming up. Get the full preview with Brock Ungrich when we come back. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. 12:40 on a Friday afternoon, America's finest city, beautiful January day here in San Diego. Usually play the game here on Annie and Elsten. I'm Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Craig. Craig will be back on Monday. Annie will be back on Wednesday, and he's got to get ready for the Salute to Champions dinner. As we usually play a game here, but we're going to punt on till Monday. If you do qualify this month by beating either Craig or Annie in one of our games, you're qualified for a chance to win our grand prize, a trip to Las Vegas to see Scorpions on March 6th, plus a 2-night stay at Planet Hollywood, and a $100 gas card. Scorpions return with their 60 years of the Scorpions Las Vegas residency show, live February 27th to March 11th at PH Live at Planet Hollywood Resort and Casino. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Annie is planning the 77th Salute to Champions dinner, in which a lot of local athletes and players and everything of that nature are getting honored, and somebody that is getting honored with his team is joining us right now on 97.3 The Fan. West Coast Conference Coach of the Year from a year ago, over 41 wins with the USD Toreros, a San Diego native through and through. The USD baseball head coach Brock Ungrich joins us now on Annie and Elsten with Braden Surprenant. Brock, what's going on? How's your Friday going?
What's up, Braden? Thanks so much, man. Happy New Year. Thanks for having me on the show. Excited to be back. Actually standing on the field right now, checking it out. It's beautiful. It's 68 degrees, not a cloud in the sky. You kidding me? Like you said, America's finest city. Let's go.
Brock, obviously we got the Salute to Champions dinner coming up on Monday. You guys have been honored, and we'll get an honor on Monday for just a remarkable season last year. That obviously ended up in a regional in Santa Barbara. Took a loss there at the end of the season, but a great season overall. And when they reached out to you about being one of the most inspirational teams of last year, what was that thought process like? And how could you kind of recap that season for you guys of what that meant to you in your third season as being head coach at USD?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, just what an honor from the San Diego Sports Association, and growing up here and knowing everything when it used to be, knowing everything about it when it used to be the Hall of Champions, and the long history of the awards that they give out every year, and the people they honor. I mean, it's very humbling and very appreciative to receive this type of award. And everything that goes into that, and all the teams in San Diego and all the great teams, amateur teams, that are here in the city and county of San Diego, to receive an award like that is just, you don't have words for it. So, that's definitely the first thing. And then looking at hey, everybody wants to win, no doubt about it. But does everybody, are they willing to pay the price to win? And that's when I look at this team and this program of the individuals that choose to come play baseball at the University of San Diego. I mean, you have a choice to make. You have a choice if you want to do the hard work, the hard things, to uphold a standard and expectation, to go out and try to win games, and in that process, I think, all 38 guys last year can definitely look in the mirror and tell you, honestly, that they did everything they could, from September 1st all the way until June, for one another, and that's something that's special. And that means a lot, to each and every one that's a part of this program. So, I know it's kind of a long-winded answer, but, that's something you think about every day.
Brock Ungrich joining us on 97.3 The Fan. I'm Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Elsten. The 2024 San Diego Toreros getting honored at the 77th Salute to Champions dinner coming up on Monday. And that was a special group for you, Brock. I mean, that is the group that when a lot of them were sophomores, your first year as the head coach of the program. You had been with them for a long time as an assistant coach. You watched them grow up and go through, and I know it was tough after that last game of the season, knowing that that was going to be the last time with that particular group, and that's hard every single year for coaches. And no coach will ever say, one team is a favorite over the other. It's just like your own kids, right? But talk to us about just how special that group of seniors were and that 2024 team, and what makes it even better that they're getting honored for everything that they had accomplished in those 3 years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think that's the cool story behind it, Braden. And you get to see it from behind the scenes too. And it's just not all positive times. They got to go through hard times. They endured a lot together. They go through hard times, whether it's off the field stuff as a team, and they got to learn how to navigate through it. They got to learn how to navigate and solve problems together. And having that player-led group from the senior class, creating holding the standard and expectations, and creating that culture, if you will, so that everyone else can kind of follow that lead. I'll tell you this: it makes it easier for a coach when you have such a strong senior class like that genuinely cares about doing things right, and not doing things right on the field, but doing things right off the field. How you treat people, with respect, right? First class mentality, how you dress, are you professional? Your conversations with people that are connected to the program or people that aren't connected to the program, and that's something that we really try to instill with our players here. It's, are you holding yourself to a kind of that first class standard? And when you have such a great senior class like Angelo Peraza and Will Worthington and Dustin Allen, Jack Costello, the list kind of goes on and on. And those guys are, if you, Braden, had to speak on those guys, you'd say they're first class humans, and they're really good baseball players too. So, that's the goal from our vision as a coaching staff is, hey, can you come here, spend 4 years, 3 years if you're going to get drafted, and our goal is to turn you into a well-rounded young man and have a chance to go play past the amateur level professionally, and hopefully win some championships along the way. So, but there's some hard times they go through that, and they're faced with some challenges along the way, and they got to rally around each other, and that's what makes this group awesome and special and a true family.
Talking about last year's team, and you got to transition into obviously 2025 as they are right around the corner right now. It's February 14th, opening night at Fowler Park. The TCU Horned Frogs come to town. You guys have a really difficult schedule, but for you, and kind of playing off of what you mentioned of what you're looking for in players and how your team and program runs and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, it's hard to find guys that want to buy in sometimes, and there's so many different avenues for players to take in all different types of sports and different reasons for why they go to certain schools, and being able to hold guys accountable that want to be held accountable. How difficult is it for coaches right now in college athletics to try to continue to adapt with the ever-changing landscape, but also stay true to their fundamentals when it comes to, putting a team together year in and year out in recruiting?
That's such a great question, and it's forever, it's fluid, but I think the number one thing you hit on, you got to stay true to yourself, and you got to stay true for the why behind what we do, and that doesn't mean it's for everybody. We know that we're not dumb in that standpoint to where it's like, hey, we know we have a great product, we have a great university, a great school, great athletic department, a great place to live, obviously. But there's also, that element of being transparent in the recruiting process, not telling them things that they want to hear, but telling them the honest truth, and then having, recruits, whether it's, their transfers or high school kids, hey, definitely talk to, players that we have on the team, so you can get an honest feedback of what it's like being here. And so that no one wants to go to a program or into a job in the real world with false expectations. You were told one thing, and then all of a sudden now this is going to happen. So I think that's important. It's very transactional right now, but how do we stay transformational in a transactional time in college athletics? And it starts with being honest and genuine, in the recruiting process, because it's about building relationships with your players, first and foremost. It starts with caring about your players, genuinely caring about their lives. And people can see through it if it's not genuine. And that's a goal of ours as a coaching staff, day in and day out, that we're going to spend more time making sure, you're good off the field and mentally strong and your head's in a good space so that you can go out and play the game you love to play. And now you talk about the financial component of it. That's real. NIL is a real thing. But at the same time, kind of knowing where you're at and what you're up against is the other side of it too. And the opportunity to be able to get to play and compete. There's still a carrot there dangling in front of a prospective student athlete.
We're joined by USD head baseball coach Brock Ungrich with Braden Surprenant here filling in for Annie and Elsten on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Brock, we only got a couple minutes left, so before I let you go, I know there's a lot of things that you wanted to mention with USD, and we'll talk about the beginning. I mean, the beginning part of your schedule is very difficult, just like it always is with you guys always scheduling to help improve that RPI of yours and always battling to try to make the NCAA tournament and go far in the NCAA tournament. Open up with TCU on February 14th on the road at Arizona. You play Oregon State on the road. Columbia comes to town. But your schedule really starts on January 31st, at least in the public eye, with your first pitch dinner. Tell us a little bit about what that is about and into kind of some important dates for USD baseball as baseball is right around the corner here in America's finest city.
Yeah, absolutely. To hit on the scheduling part, you definitely got to schedule tough. Our conference is challenging, so we definitely want to play against the best. And every kid coming into the program knows that we're going to go up against the best for sure, year in and year out. And with that transition to January 31st, we're super excited about having this first pitch dinner. It's the first time we're doing it. And we got Chase Mydroth coming back. He just got traded from the Red Sox to the White Sox. He's going to be a guest speaker. Should be in the big leagues here to start the year with the White Sox. And then Logan Gelbrecht, who was part of some of the awesome teams from the 2007 era, owns his own business, strength and conditioning business, and just an inspirational leader and just a great representation of our program. So both those guys are going to be keynote speakers. It's a great opportunity to come out and talk baseball. We're going to honor the 2024 team. And then we're going to definitely honor our 2025 team coming up and get to know our players. Nice sit-down dinner on America's finest campus as well here at the University of San Diego. And just get excited about San Diego baseball coming up and what we have to offer.
Brock, I'm looking forward to that. I appreciate the invite to it. I'll look forward to talking to you on Monday at the Champions Salute the Champions dinner, and good luck on the season. I know I'll be around at USD, but that's a daunting schedule to get things going, but I know you guys got the team to do it. We'll catch up again before the season starts, get a little preview of the 2025 Toreros, but Brock, I appreciate the time.
Hey, I appreciate you, Braden. Thank you for everything you do for our program, man.
That's Brock Ungrich, head coach of the USD Toreros, joining us today. And a special thanks to Brock for being a part of the show. I love having Brock on, get fired up to talk about college baseball in town. And the college baseball teams in town are good. I mean, USD, last couple of years have been exceptional. And then you look at UCSD, transition to D1. They've already won a Big West title in baseball a couple of years ago. And they're on the up and up, and of course San Diego State with the tradition they have at Tony Gwynn Stadium, trying to get back into the swing of things for the Aztecs. But we always have good baseball here in town, especially at the college level. So it's gonna be fun. If you want to go check them out, you can go to Fowler, go check out Fowler Park. They got a lot of great teams coming into town to take on the Toreros, starting with TCU. I mean, TCU is ranked 18 in the country to start the year, and they got a 4-game series here from February 14th. Through the 18th, I think. Then they'll go to Arizona. Bakersfield comes, Irvine, Columbia, and then, of course, conference play. Always great for USD. Got an hour left, but we got Eric Olin, head basketball coach of UCSD, getting ready for a big game against Irvine tomorrow. He joins us next, talking college basketball. Braden Surprenant in for Annie and Elsten, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant back. Final hour of Annie and Elsten, filling in for Annie and Craig. Craig will be back on Monday. Annie will be back on Wednesday after the Salute to Champions dinner that she is planning on Monday. Final hour of the show. Talked a lot of college football and the NFL early on. Just wrapped it up with Brock Ungrich, USD baseball head coach, kind of preview the baseball season. But now it is time to talk about what probably is the biggest game of the weekend here in town, and that would be the UCSD Tritons taking on the UC Irvine Anteaters at Lion Tree Arena. Game's going to be nationally televised on ESPNU, and why not? Two of the best teams in the Big West Conference, as the Tritons are 14-2, 4-0 in conference play, finally eligible for the postseason in Division I as they made that transition now, and they have done it in the basketball, at least in basketball, with their head coach Eric Olin, who has done a phenomenal job over the years, and he joins me right now. Eric Olin, head basketball coach of the UCSD Tritons. Eric, what's going on? How's your Friday going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on.
I love having you on, talking about some college basketball. You guys have been playing exceptionally well this season, and yesterday you're going against a team in Cal Poly who had lost 42 straight Big West games, but the majority of their players had not been a part of that. They got a lot of transfers in from Colorado Mesa, and they were a pretty good opponent for a lot of teams this year. You guys battled with them and then really pulled away late in that contest. Just talk to us a little bit about how you thought your players did when you got Cal Poly right before UC Irvine coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, I thought we did a good job. Cal Poly's a dangerous team, unique style. They have the fastest pace in the country. They have an earlier win at Stanford earlier in the year. So certainly a dangerous team, with especially the game before the matchup we have tomorrow. It's easy to maybe overlook that situation. But we have a pretty mature group who understand what we're trying to do. And I thought our focus was good, and I thought we played pretty well for the most part. A little slow first half, but Cal Poly really shot the ball well, and then we had a pretty good performance in the second half to really create some separation at the end.
You guys off to a 14-2 start, as mentioned before, and obviously in transition to Division I basketball and some of the programs already established in town. Trying to get your own footprint in town. You've done a great job in competing with San Diego State on the court. I know you're trying to get to that level and you've been close, and there's no such thing as a moral victory. But the way that you have built your program over the last couple of years, and the way you've been able to go through the transition process. What has this last 5, 6, 7 years been like for you as a coach in building the program and then getting an opportunity to compete at a D1 level, and now with the opportunity to finally, after some transition time where you can't compete in the postseason, to be finally eligible now at the end of the year? What has been that entire process like for you as a head coach, going through all of these, different jumps with the program?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, the transition is difficult. Not having the postseason is a real challenge, especially coming from where we were in Division II, where we were competing, to make the NCAA tournament. We felt like we had a couple teams that could make runs. The last team we had was at Division II was, I think, 30-1 and got shut down with COVID. We felt like we had a chance to win the national championship. So we're thinking about postseason all the time and building our team and our roster and our schedule in a certain way. And then all of a sudden it flips, and it's a little bit different approach to some of the things you're doing, not necessarily the basketball part of it. So a couple years of no postseason opportunity. We were fortunate to have really high character guys who were competitive every night, and even late in the year when everyone else is getting ready for the postseason. I thought our guys did an admirable job of that, but it's a challenge for sure to kind of stay focused and continue to do the things you want to do. So we've always been focused on this season in terms of how we want to build the roster. We want to make sure we have a good team coming out of the transition, the first opportunity to compete. We'd like to be in position to do so, those kind of things. So we tried to focus on that as we've built our team and roster over the last few years. We were fortunate to make significant progress last season in the last year of our transition, finished second in the Big West, and really that was helpful for us in retaining some players, in recruiting, to show them, hey, look how close we are. Now we're eligible. This is a place where we can really, make some noise and build something special. And so we were fortunate to have the right guys kind of buy into that. And, we're kind of reaping the benefits of putting a really talented group together right now. And you see the kind of basketball we're playing.
UCSD head basketball coach Eric Olin joining me on 97.3 The Fan. Braden Surprenant filling in for Andy and Elsten. We've talking recruiting with a lot of coaches, and this ever-changing landscape of college athletics, it's very difficult to do. And then on top of that, for a program like yours to have to go through it without, at least having postseason opportunities, what did you learn about yourself as a recruiter having to go through what arguably is probably the most difficult task for any college basketball coach, or any college coach for that matter, in the recruiting element, when you have to worry about, everybody's worried about NIL and playing time and program prestige. You got all these different programs in Southern California you got to compete with. And then on top of that, the last couple of years, some of the guys you're recruiting, if they stay, would never be able to play in the NCAA tournament during that time. What did you learn about recruiting and about your recruiting and your ability to recruit during such a difficult task at hand?
Yeah, that that's something we really that has kind of evolved over the last few years. I think that our first few years in the Big West, we learned a lot about how we need to build our team and how that team needs to play in order to have success in the Big West landscape. A huge percentage of what we're doing with all the success at Division II is still part of how we play basketball at Division I, but there are adjustments we had to make. There were things we needed to change to put ourselves in position, and some of those things meant we needed to recruit a little bit different player at different positions, or we needed the pieces to fit a certain way. So I think those first couple years in that transition and getting reps in the Big West and at the Division I level and all the teams that we're competing against really gave us a lot of good feedback and information about how we needed to be successful. And then from a recruiting standpoint, for us, it's really about alignment. Can we find talented players who are aligned in how they think about the game of basketball with how we think about the game of basketball? And when we do that, then it's easier to get buy-in because we're just kind of on the same page from the beginning. And so the challenge for us is to find enough guys who are a good fit for our place academically, think about basketball the way we think about basketball, and want to be part of it. But it's really just going out and finding the guys at that point. I think the evolution for us was over the course of the first couple of years of the transition, was just really understanding how we needed to play and what type of players were going to help us get there. And I think we've seen in the last couple of years that when we're able to put the rosters together that kind of check those boxes, we got a chance to compete with anyone.
Head coach of the UC San Diego Tritons, Eric Olin, joining me on Annie and Elsten. Braden Surprenant filling in for both Craig and Annie today. Let's talk about some of those players. I mean, I was fortunate enough to call your guys' game against the University of San Diego. I know you talked with Jack Cronin before the game about just how tight your players are and how they pull the rope in the right direction, and that love for each other that they have. In this day and age of college basketball, where you got a brand new team almost every year for a lot of these schools, it's very unique to have, and it really shows the type of program that you run to get those kind of players to play together. But overall, I know you kind of talked to us about it, but for people in San Diego that want to know more about the Tritons or interested about watching this team play, how would you categorize your team in terms of a product? Because when I watched them play, at least up close, I mean, it was a well-oiled machine, all doing the job that they need to do, and kind of a more classic style of basketball.
Yeah, no, well, it starts with kind of the way that our guys are connected on the court and off, honestly, but that all starts with the core guys and the core returning guys, right? So, and for us, we were fortunate to bring back a kind of a big three who were really good players for us last year, and Hayden Gray, Tyler McGuy, and Niwa Tay Jones. So they sort of set the tone for all of it, right? And this is their team, and everybody kind of gravitates towards them and follows their lead, right? So it starts with them, not with me, and I just try to cultivate that. But then from a basketball standpoint, I would describe our team as smart, tough, skilled, right? Like we are those things pretty much every day, and we're really consistent with how we approach every day, and that allows us to play with some consistency. And we have guys who have played a lot of basketball. Not all of them have played a lot of basketball at the Division I level. I mean, we have 6 Division II transfers on our team, but they have a lot of experience that is helping them be successful now, and they're really good players. And I think that our time at Division II has helped us identify guys who are prepared to move up a level and have success, specifically within the way that we play. So it's not that we have all Division II players, but we're able to go maybe recruit some guys that are undervalued in the marketplace because of our past experiences and understanding of how they could fit in our program. And we've had a lot of success with that in the last couple of years of having guys come in and really make a big impact. It starts with those 3 that I mentioned, but we have others, and we have a relatively deep team of guys who are contributing.
Got a lot of access and a lot of hype around Lion Tree Arena. I know it's been a nice packed. It's a beautiful venue to watch college basketball. The support that the athletic department has given you guys and all the athletic programs over there at UCSD. A lot of state-of-the-art facilities. There might be a lot of people that want to check out the game tomorrow. Let's talk about the game tomorrow. You get to play on national television. You're playing against UC Irvine, who the last couple of years have been really the class of the Big West. That seems to be the top basketball team to deal with. And I know you guys are going to keep it simple. You never want to overhype the basketball game, but it should be a good contest tomorrow. And what are some of the challenges that the Anteaters bring you guys that you have to worry about tomorrow?
Yeah, you're exactly right about them being kind of the standard in the Big West that we're all chasing and pursuing. So it's a great opportunity for us to play, have this game at home and in front of a sellout crowd. The environment's going to be awesome. Our guys are excited. But they certainly present a challenge. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country by all the metrics. They're very difficult to score on. They have a ton of size. They play with physicality. They have good players. They're really well coached. So we certainly have our hands full. They've been the best team in the Big West for a reason. But we have a good team too. And I think it's two of the, honestly, like obviously we're talking about the Big West, but like if you look at all the kind of the metrics that people pay attention to in college basketball, we're 2 of the better mid-major teams in the whole country. We just happen to be in the same league, and so we get to play twice a year and maybe 3 times. And so we're excited about the first go-around being here. And we're like they're 14-2, we're 14-2, we're both undefeated in the league. It's a huge game for everybody, and I think everybody around here is really fired up, and we're looking forward to it.
And we're looking forward to it, too, here at 97.3 The Fan. I know we got some UCSD alum that might be showing up tomorrow night. Excited for the game. 7 o'clock on ESPNU, Irvine and UCSD out in La Jolla, California. Should be a great matchup. Coach, we appreciate the time. Though you got to get bearing down on the Anteaters a little bit more, and we'll let you get away. But appreciate it and look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks again for having me on.
Absolutely. Eric Olin, head basketball coach of the UC San Diego Tritons, and they got a big game tomorrow against Irvine. Jerseys to the first 1,250 students and 750 alumni tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, ESPNU. Again, should be a good contest. It's the blue and gold rivalry, as said by UCSD. And when you talk about the class of the Big West, I mean, you got to talk about the Anteaters with what Russ Turner has done with UC Irvine's basketball program and being a perennial NCAA tournament team. And as Coach Eric Olin said, I mean, these are 2 teams that, if they weren't both in the Big West, they're probably both in the NCAA tournament. I don't know if they're going to have enough to be a 2-bid league, but I think both those schools deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. The resume that they have should be a great contest. If you want to check it out, get out to see if they still have tickets available at UCSDTritons.com. But it should be a great contest tomorrow night between Irvine and UCSD. They're the two best teams in that conference, and they're two of the better teams in mid majors. And we'll see what's got in store. And as Eric Olin said, I mean, this might be game one of potential 3 between the Anteaters and the Tritons. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and some other local college basketball this weekend. San Diego, the Toreros, will have St. Mary's on Saturday night as well. So you got 2 big contests in town for college basketball in San Diego tomorrow night. You got one at Lion Tree Arena. You got one at the University of San Diego. St. Mary's, one of the best teams in the West Coast Conference, coming into town. And to get your appetite wet for some college basketball, you got San Diego State and New Mexico tomorrow morning at 10 in the morning. Unfortunately, we couldn't have the trifecta of all 3 teams in town at the same time, but San Diego State will be playing at New Mexico on tomorrow. So local products doing some pretty good things. A lot of, Frank, I'm bringing in here, those 2 interviews felt like they're the exact same interview with the way that they run their program and the way the type of players they're looking for, the love that the players have for everybody in those buildings and their head coaches. You could see why USD baseball and UCSD basketball have shown why they're really good. And the thing is it's similar to every local college team that has had success.
Yeah, absolutely, 110%. And I'll tell you what, I might be a little bit more partial to the UCSD game. I know you'll be calling the USD game, but I've spent a lot of time up around UCSD with the whole weight loss surgery thing. So that's definitely piqued my interest. And that was a really, really, really impressive interview from a guy who, as he said, had to learn coming up from D2, having to learn how to recruit, having to learn how to scout talent that otherwise may have been overlooked in order to fit their system and fit their school. And it was both of them very, very impressive interviews.
Yeah, and I can't imagine how difficult it is. At this day and age of college athletics, you got kids that are like looking for more money, and I mean UCSD and San Diego and San Diego State are all doing their own battles to try to get as much NIL as possible. You got 3 different schools in town, right, that you have to compete with alumni and trying to donate some money to these NIL funds. And it's just going to be a case where it's never going to be in the same conversation of what USC and UCLA and some of the big programs out on the West Coast are able to put together money-wise. But on top of that, you're playing time and playing in a conference, but the Big West Conference. But then on top of that, you can't even play in the you couldn't even play in the postseason. I mean, those first couple of years of getting guys to sign up to play was probably almost impossible to do.
You got to find guys that are going to do it for the love of the game. I mean, at that point, it may be guys that know, hey, listen, I'm going to play college basketball, but I know I'm not making it anywhere else. So I'm going to enjoy the 4 years of college basketball here. Don't really need to win anything. I know I'm not really good enough to be in that top echelon anyway. So I'm going to do it for the love of the game. And again, as you said, with how recruiting has changed so much with the NIL deals and now with the transfer portal, it's getting harder and harder to find those kids, and they've done a very, very good job of doing just that.
I mean, look at UCLA this week with Mick Cronin, calling out his team, and he had there's a lot of points that I know were truthful in just this way of college athletics. The way he delivered, he went a little bit too far with the whole like I thing compared to we. But that being said, I mean, he's got a bunch of players that are there for money and stuff, and UCSD, and I didn't want to ask Eric about, comparing the two things. It's obviously drastically different, but UCSD's got a bunch of guys that love to play basketball. And, there's a lot of those kids out there still, but with all the distractions of everything and with, trying to be social media, branding, everybody's got their own brand now. You see it at the high school level. To find those players makes it even more difficult to find the ones that, don't need a lot of money, that love the game, and are highly talented to compete with a lot of the talent out there.
It's almost like they're not student athletes anymore,
yeah,
as the NCAA likes to claim and is used as a shield against having to pay them.
At certain schools, like the military academies and the Ivy Leagues, and
it was so funny to watch the post-game show for Penn State and Notre Dame last night, is because when they were calling up like all of the Notre Dame players for the trophy celebration and all that, how much emphasis they put on student athletes. We'll ask the questions for the coach later, but the first questions are going to be for the student athlete. Come
That's
on,
what they have to
give
say.
it a break.
They have to say. What are you going to say? Athletes? Gotta say students.
You may as well
say,
at this point. At this point, you may
they're
as
not
well.
employees yet, Frank. You'll know when they're employees. There'll be a collective bargaining agreement, and all of a sudden nobody will be able to transfer anymore.
If we get a college basketball video game out of it, I'll be happy. It's fine.
Hey, you got the football game. It's
I do have the football game.
Football game.
I've put over 300 hours into that football game.
I haven't. Somebody asked me the other day, how's the football game going? I'm like, well, I haven't played it since it came out because I've been coaching my own teams. So it takes away the time and the effort. I have a little bit more time in the month of January than I have had for the entire fall year. But hey, you know what? Off-season lifting already started, so season's back in full force.
I took the Buffalo Bulls to the national championship game and lost it. I also moved them to the Big Ten, where I have beaten Michigan State and Michigan and Ohio State.
Yeah, some of us here could beat Michigan. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I also got Lamar Sperling, who is a freshman running back there right now, a Heisman Trophy.
Wow.
I tried to get a jersey from them. And it's like, hey, I got a Heisman. I know I can't find somewhere to buy your jersey. Is there any way you guys can hook me up? Never got an answer. And that was when I took a job at App State.
Oh, there you go. I had a job at Army on the video game. Went down to Georgia and beat their ass running the rock.
Attaboy.
Couldn't handle it. Couldn't handle it,
Attaboy.
but I haven't played the game in a long time. He's Frank Marchese, Braden Surprenant, filling in for Annie and Elsten. When we come back, we'll talk some local college basketball this weekend. We mentioned some of the games. We'll dive a little bit further into it at 1:45. Ask us anything. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. Be sure to join the show. If you want to get any questions about anything, want to talk Padres, want to talk NFL, college football this weekend, give me a ring. 833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. You can also leave a voice message if you're listening on the Odyssey app. We'll play that for you on the show as well, but do want to get you involved today on the show. A couple of segments left. Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Craig on Annie and Elsten, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Did you know you can listen to 97 Through the Fan with your smart speaker? Ask your device to play 97 Through the Fan to give it a shot. Hey, Alexa, play 97 Through the Fan. I hope I started playing it in a bunch of places.
Turned my Alexa off for that exact reason.
Hey, Alexa, set an alarm for 4 a.m.
Oh, Doug did. Why you do that?
Right, exactly.
That's just rude.
That is rude. Alexa, play heavy metal music at 4 a.m. I really hope that didn't just go off for a bunch of people that are listening to the show. My apologies. I have done that before. I was telling Annie the other day, I have done that before with some relatives. Just like walking, they have an Alexa. Hey, Alexa, set an alarm for 3 a.m. I'm sorry? You have an Alexa?
Me? No, I don't know.
No.
Siri is what I meant. I shut Siri off. That was what I meant.
Good stuff. Are you going to watch the game tonight?
Yes, of course I am going to watch the game tonight.
You watch it at home or are you going somewhere?
No, I'm watching it at home. No, I don't go out amongst people. I enjoy sitting in bed watching stuff.
You never go out for like a watch party?
No, there are times where I threaten to and never do.
I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what me and my buddies are doing tonight. One of them's crying in his beer with Penn State. So he's like, sports are canceled for the next couple of days. So I don't know. The other one said he was like tired from the week, didn't know. And then today he got a little sparked. He wanted to go watch the game somewhere potentially. So I'm down to do that. I don't mind. Let me ask fans out there. If it's your team playing, you're sitting at home anyway. But if it's your team playing, are you more or less inclined to go watch that game somewhere besides your house?
I mean, I'm less inclined right now for a completely different reason.
I've already said that you weren't going to leave anyway.
Well, no, I can't. Like, if I go to a restaurant, I can't eat anything.
That's true.
Like, I had...
Well, you can't go to, like, a bar and be tempted by the...
Well, I can't. With this surgery, I can't drink alcohol for a year. Not that I do anyway. But now, like, I had a 4-piece chicken nugget from Wendy's and a junior fry the other day. I made a calculation, without realizing that I stink at math.
You can't read and you can't do math. What can you do exactly?
I could make an idiot of myself on the radio.
There you go.
I was out for a good 2 hours, like not wanting to move, not wanting to be far away from the bathroom.
Okay.
On 4 chicken nuggets and a junior fry from Wendy's. So It's not like if I go to a restaurant somewhere, I can't eat anything. So it's like that's
if you
another
go to a bar,
reason.
If you go to a bar, yeah, but you have to get something. You can't go to the bar and get like water. You got to get something. And then worst thing about going to restaurants and bars, especially now in January when everybody's like doing a diet and everything like that and trying to cleanse yourself from the winter months, and the holiday season where it's just like in front of you all the time, is you're trying to like, well, maybe I can get the burger with the lettuce around it. Maybe I can get a protein style. That's protein. That's whatever, and it's not ideal. Because I've gone out with like. Sometimes my friends, like my buddy, he's going to do the 75 hard again. He does it with his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. Never done the 75 hard before?
No.
It involves like reading and stuff too. So it's just like.
So I'm already out there.
Yeah, you already can't. It's like you got to 75 straight days. You got to like exercise for an hour. There's a bunch of stuff with it. It does a lot of great things. Very close, like the whole 30. There's a bunch of these like fad diets and stuff like that. But he can't he can't drink alcohol for 75 days either. And like watching him try to he's like he refuses just to go out.
Yeah,
I could go. I mean, I could go and not drink alcohol if I don't need to. I mean, it'd just be like I'll just order a whatever.
Yeah, no, like I'm good with just water. That's what I get most of the time. On the very rare occasion, I'll have like the odd Pepsi or the odd Sprite, but I won't. Like I don't rely on that stuff, and I don't drink at all. So it's not a big deterrent to me. Oh, you can't drink for a year. Okay, that doesn't. About the other 31 years I haven't drank, that won't stop me. But it's like I won't be able to finish a quarter of a burger. And for some reason, whatever reason, after this surgery, fries have messed me up worse than anything else. But I can have potato chips all I want.
Yeah,
It's the
fried
same
beef
thing.
tallow, man. Gotta get the beef tallow fries. Seed oils. Too much.
Oh, but I've had, but if you're like, if I went to Wendy's, they're cooking the chicken nuggets in the same oil as the
That's
fries,
definitely
and
not
that didn't bother me.
Oh yeah, it's the protein aspect.
I don't know.
To go
It's
back
odd.
to the conversation, there's certain sports teams I don't mind watching at a bar that are quote my sports teams. There's certain sports teams I don't want anything to do with watching at a bar.
Say that again.
So-
Philadelphia.
So like for me, and my buddy Mike's the same way. Like he would have never left his house to watch Penn State play anywhere else. He would just would have lost his mind at other places. I think that's the same case for a lot of people with their diehard team. I can watch the Padres at a bar and not be like problem with it. You know, I can go watch the game at a bar for the Pods because baseball to me is a little different. It's a little different. I can watch my family's schools like Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee fan because I went to Tennessee. I like San Diego State, Arizona. Was my mom with Arizona, my dad was San Diego State. You know, if High Point was good, they're good in basketball, but if they were good to a level I go, I can watch all of those teams play at a bar. If TCU football's on, I don't want to watch it with anybody else.
Get away from me.
No, absolutely not. Unless I'm at a pro TCU event or I happen to be in a different, like I'm on vacation or something like that, or I'm in a different town and I don't have access to watching it in my house, I don't want to watch that game, especially important games, at a bar. I don't want to do it. No. As Jocelyn said in the chat, I hate hearing others cheering for the opposing team out in public. I hate that too. And here's the other thing that I hate about that. Let me know if you think the same way. I think a lot of those people are bettors on the game. I think they're just about, and they're the most obnoxious. Mm-hmm. Not even the ones that have like really. I mean, their dog in the fight is how much they put on the thing. But like, if TCU's playing and they happen to be losing and they're losing to a team and there's a guy at the bar that has nothing to do with that team, just trying to be obnoxious. No, I'm not. That guy's looking for a fight. That's what he's looking for. I'm not interested in participating in that. Controlling my temper on stuff as I'm living and dying with every play, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just whatever." So those are the situations for. I can watch TCU football at my house. I could throw a TCU watch party at my house. I don't really like that too much. I mean, I do and I don't. I could watch big sporting events at a bar. I think that's good too, as long as I don't have a dog in the fight. I think we're okay. But if we're talking a playoff game and TCU's on, I'm not watching in the public. I think it'd be bad for my image, and I think it'd be bad for everybody else there. It's not going to happen. But like tonight, Texas and Ohio State, that's a good place to go. That's a good time to go watch a ball game somewhere. You know, I feel like it's different. So that's how I feel on it. Like, well, here's the other one. Like San Diego State on the March Madness run, right? I watched that at Pitchers. Like I watched every game at Pitchers. I don't mind watching San Diego State, one of the teams I root for, right? Not my school per se. I can watch that with a group of Aztec fans at a bar, even if there's like a UConn fan or whatever. You know, it's not going to bother me as much. And I don't mind supporting my friend. Like I've gone to a couple of Washington State watch parties.
I've gone
for my buddy.
I've gone to the Shakespeare a couple of times to watch Chelsea play. Again, big problem with me is Chelsea plays at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. I didn't know there was a 7 a.m. until I started working the morning show here. But yeah, I mean, I know the Naughty Barrel is the Islanders bar downtown, but I've no interest in it really. I mean, I know it's a fun night. It's this, it's that. You get around other fans, but no, I'd rather just watch the game and listen to it and actually pay attention instead of trying to have the awkward conversation with somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about and insists that they do.
Doesn't know ball.
Yep.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Want to join the show, you can ask us anything coming up next. Andrew in PB will get you on when we come back. Stay on the line. Braden Surprenant filling in for Annie and Elsten right here on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Final segment of the work week. This has been a long week. It's been a very long week. Long week for us here at 97.3 The Fan. Maybe it's because we had 2 weeks off in between. I've had a long week. I've had to do a bunch of adult things this week. Not fun. Car insurance. DMV appointments. Passports. Renewing passports. Renewing real ID. Or driver's license. Turning into a real ID. What else? What else did I have to do this week? Refinance an auto loan. Get work done on my car, which is done now. DMV yesterday actually was like 20 minutes. I was in and out in 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it.
Appointments are nice, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Appointments are nice. All the documents already uploaded. They're like, here, punch. Bureaucracy. You get your ID in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Attaboy.
Appreciate it. Adulting is exhausting. Yes, absolutely. So it's been a long week. It's going to continue through next week, and the month of January always seems like it goes by very slow. We're only 10 days in, and we're only 1 weekend on the show. But this is the final segment of our work week. So for Craig and Annie, as they like to do at the end of every show on Friday, big thank you to all of you guys being a part of our show throughout the week. We really get excited to talk sports with all of you guys. In San Diego. It's a blessing for myself as a fourth-generation San Diegan, a diehard sports fan, to be on the radio waves here in America's finest city, my hometown. And so I appreciate all of you guys letting us be able to do this. It's a lot better than, as Riley Green would say, driving nails. You all know that. And it's a lot better than doing a lot of different things that I could be doing instead. So we appreciate all of you guys to let us do this job. And in our final segment, we always let you ask us anything. Here's Ask Us Anything.
Her name is Annie. His name is Craig. They're joined by Braden. But who are they really? Never hurts to ask. It's time to ask us anything on Annie and Elsten.
833-288-0973. 833-288-0973. If you want to call in. Andrew and PB called in before. You can still ask us anything. Andrew, what's going on? How's your Friday, man?
It's going well. Thank you so much. Hey, a couple things. One, I wanted to kind of touch base on what you talked about earlier as far as being a fan. I'm a Longhorn graduate. I'm a University of Texas alum. And to your point about the game tonight, I cannot watch it around other people. I got to be by myself. I got to be solo. I actually, this week and this game, I actually invited some friends over. Then it turns out I have pneumonia, so that's not happening anymore. So maybe that's just God's way of saying you should not be watching it around other people. So, but the question I had is, I want your opinion on this. I saw something on some of the news line about the Xander Bogaerts contract being the worst contract in Major League Baseball. Came across today. What are y'all's thoughts on that?
Like, do we? Is that a myth or a fact? If it's the current worst contract in Major League Baseball?
What are your feelings on it?
I mean, it's not a great contract. I think from a lot of different standpoints, it's a contract that if the Padres did not have to pay that, would open the doors for them to do a lot of different things, because it was not a player they necessarily needed at the time, and it's a lot of money for a player that hasn't gotten to that level yet. But I like Xander Bogaerts, and I like having him on the Padres. I think he's in the same position as Jake Cronenworth was last year. If he can play up to as close to it as possible, he can save it a little bit. But as of right now, it's not that great of a contract. So you can't trade it. You can't get rid of it. He's on the team. The guy's a pro. He's going to give you his best effort the whole time. And you just hope that you get some work out of it in the next couple of years. I mean, because at the end, it's going to be even worse than it currently is. So, no, it's not a great contract as of right now. But I think Xander's due to have a good year. I don't think he's done yet. So we'll see. Andrew, appreciate the phone call. Feel better. I can never root for the Longhorns as a TCU fan, but good luck. I hate Ohio State, so I might not. There, I'll hook them tonight. All right. Okay, cool. Hook them. Andrew and PB.
Really, really quick. I've always felt as though that Xander Bogaerts signing was, there are so many big free agents winter meetings are here in San Diego, I have to get something.
Well, they missed out on Aaron Judge and Trey Turner, too.
No, I understand that. Yeah, so you get spurned by the two biggest names, so you go and spend $80 million more than the next team to make sure you get a big name come in your home winter meetings. I've always felt
slight overpay. It's not a good contract.
No, not at all.
Not at all. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Still have a couple more minutes to join the show that way before Frank has to pull a magical card, which is never great. You never know what you're going to get out of Pandora's box over there for Ask Us Anything. Let's go down to National City. Mario weighing in. Mario, what's going on? How's your Friday?
Oh, good afternoon, man. I'm just about getting ready to get off work, but I was just wondering, what do you guys think on Profar and Kim? Are we going to sign them or not?
Well, that's a major gray area. Not know how much the Padres' budget is, and nor will we know what their budget is. I think it's getting more and more likely that if you had to pick a destination for Kim, just because he hasn't signed anywhere else yet, that he might be able to take a one-year deal in San Diego. I think that's more likely. I just don't know, and it depends on the market. I mean, I'd love to see Profar back, but how much is he going to cost? How much is someone willing to spend? The fact that he's still on the market, I think, is good news for the Padres, but just depends. I mean, they got a lot of different spots that they need, and they might have to find the next Jerks and Profar for $1 million. So I would say not likely on both of those. I think for each coming day, it probably gets more likely, but I think they got to wait until honestly, I think a lot of this hinges on where Sasaki goes and where you shift your plans after that, because they're definitely all in on him. But you want to give Profar $8 to $9 million, $10 million? Probably not. You want to give that to Kim? Probably not. Not when you already can't afford a lot of these assets, and you currently don't have a catcher, and you need a left fielder, and you need starting help, and the bullpen. And I would rather just invest all that money. If you have the money to sign either of those guys, I would just put the money in Tanner Scott. But I don't know if they have that kind of money. We don't know. We won't start knowing until they start signing guys, which they haven't done yet. We got Brasel in a minor league deal, and they re-signed Tyler Wade, and that's about it. And the Sasaki thing could be a steal, but after that, you don't know what you're going to get. And obviously, they've spent a lot of the money that they have had already in this roster. And I said at the beginning of the show, this is a team that's still a playoff caliber team with what's on paper. Mario, appreciate the phone call.
I would say that your biggest need right now is left field. It's a lot bigger of a need than finding a middle infielder to come off the bench.
You don't have a catcher.
No, I know you. No, I'm not saying. But given of those two, your bigger need is left field.
Middle infielder or left fielder between Kim and Profar.
Yeah,
plus, Kim's going to miss time.
Yeah, I would say
Kim's only coming back on a team-friendly deal.
If you had to sign one, I would lean towards Profar. Yeah.
If those are my only options.
Yeah.
We had a guy call in. He hung up. Chris? Was it Chris?
It means we're going to the box, doesn't it?
Uh-oh. What's in the box?
Oh, God.
What's in the box?
All right, let's see what is in the box.
What's in the box?
Okay, we're not doing that one.
Was that a severed head?
Yeah. What is the best thing anyone has ever said to you?
The best compliment?
Sure.
From a work standpoint, the best compliment I've ever got was, I'm not interested in that subject at all, but I was really entertained by it and I couldn't turn off the radio.
That is a good one.
I think, trying to make things entertaining for people that don't like certain things, like football. And I forgot what the topic was, but that's, to me, in this business, that's probably the best. Oh, here he is. He's back. His name Chris?
Yep, he is.
You put him on hold?
Yeah, I will put him on hold, as a matter of fact. For me, it was you're not as dumb as you look.
Well, thank you.
But it's always nice to have, for me, it's racing. So whenever I do get a chance to talk about it, it always makes you feel good to allow your passion to flow.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, and then to see a positive response in the chat and stuff like that. Yeah, so
I find that coaching. That's like when I coach.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun to do that.
All right, we're gonna go with Chris in San Diego. I think his name is Chris. Is your name Chris? Chris, what's going on?
Yes, sir. How's it going, guys?
Going well, man. What you got for us?
Hey, so I love your guys' show. Appreciate it. I know that there's been a lot of back and forth. They're going to Padres not having a lot of movement going on so far. I think.
Yeah, I think signal's
I
out.
think on that. And
Chris,
am I losing you guys?
we keep losing you, you Sorry about that. You keep cutting out right when the question's supposed to go on. So try to call us next week. I'm sorry about that. We ran out of time anyway. No more East County jokes in the chat. Poway is not East County. Some of us have been here a long time. Some of us have grown up in Poway. Some of us have grown up in Poway with parents from East County. They'll never admit that. Poway being East County. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Thanks again for tuning in to Annie and Elsten. Craig is back on Monday, and he'll be back on Wednesday. We'll talk to you then. San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan.